Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the City Commission meeting for Monday, August 1st, 2022 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Bradford? Here. Commissioner King?
All right, thank you.
No.
What?
You're here.
Oh, here. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Commissioner McCool?
I'm here.
I'm here with him. Commissioner Ramos?
Present.
Commissioner Sosa? Here. Vice Mayor Billy Vasquez?
Present.
Mayor Hertzberg?
I am here with all of them. It's going to be an interesting evening. Everyone's all happy that it's the 1st of August. This evening, I am going to turn the meeting over to Commissioner King for the invocation, the pledge, and he will introduce who's going to sing the national anthem unless he'd like to do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're going to have this evening Pastor Jordan Hicks, from Associate Pastor and Youth Pastor at Crosswalk Church of Deltona. We'll be doing the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and then 16-year-old Vanity Rosado, student at Pine Ridge High School, will sing the national anthem. Please rise.
Father God, Lord, we come to you today and just, Lord, ask for wisdom. As we seek your help today, Lord, come and let your wisdom fall upon us. Oh, Lord, as we gather for this meeting, give us clarity so that we can effectively tackle each part of today's agenda, reveal problem areas, and show us the best solutions that will apply. Pour in our eyes to every positive outcome since our last meeting, and let these favorable results and developments encourage every heart in this room. Dear God, help us apply your wisdom as we decide on certain matters and make plans. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was amazing. Yes, go ahead.
Correction on a name.
Well,
Okay, correction on her name. Her first name is Jeanette Lee. Just want to make sure you got that. You need to know who she is.
thank you, Nick. You did a great job. Okay, we're going to move on to our business agenda. Item 4A is approval of the minutes of the regular commission meeting of July 18th, 2022 as presented.
So move.
Properly moved by Commissioner Ramos, seconded by Commissioner Bradford. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. We'll go to item 5, presentations, awards, and reports. Our only item on the agenda this evening is item 5A, a quarterly report of the unaudited financial statements. Mary Lyson, Finance Director.
Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. I prepared financial statements as of June 30th. The goal is to have them prepared quarterly for your review and for Acting City Manager Peters and Stacy, Deputy. I've prepared 3 different schedules. The first one is the general fund, and the first column is the actual expenditures as of June 30th. The second column is revised budget, and the third column is the percentage of where we're at this point in time. I'd like to draw your attention really to the items that tend to be an outlier. Under the general fund, the charges for service is up 129% at this point in time, and that is due primarily to permitting fees being in excess of what was budgeted, higher than anticipated, and that was really the biggest outlier for that. Also, you're going to find this throughout the financial statements. The interest income is lower than expected. Even though interest rates are higher, we are earning more interest, but generally accepted accounting principles require that we mark to market our investments. And since the stock market is down, I just believe just about everyone's portfolio is down, so it's not trending as high as anticipated. The other item is the capital expenditures towards the bottom. Right now it's at 11%, and this is in the general fund. This is for capital replacement, and it's not that these funds have not been encumbered. They have. They're purchase orders for most of the items. We are just waiting to receive vehicles, for example. They are in order. We have not received them, and that seems to be, it's just a matter of waiting for them, the items to come in. The next statement I'd like to draw your attention to is Deltona Water. And everything seems to be pretty much where it should be, 3/4 of the way. Other miscellaneous income is up 168%, and that is due to late fees are higher than budgeted at this point, and also materials and supplies for customer accounts, which I had to look that up. That's the cost, or that's what customers pay for meters and connections, and Steve Danskin could address it, but it's the items that customers purchased in order for the hookup. The expenditures are pretty much on track. Interest earnings are down again. For impact fees are up for wastewater and water, and that's due to new development, their connection fees. Also under let's see, federal grants. We have budgeted $7 million for a state revolving loan fund, which we have not received those funds yet. Julie is the expert on Deltona Water. And also, we budgeted $11 million for the American Rescue Plan that we're planning on purchasing the meters. We have already received the money from the Treasury. However, it's just an accounting form that we don't receive the revenue until the expenditures have occurred. So it's considered unearned revenue. Right now it's on the balance sheet. So we're waiting for the meters to arrive. Once they're arrived and installed, then it's considered revenue because we have performed our obligation to the federal government. The 16% for state grants, that's part of the 4B project, which is in process. And I think Steve would be able to address questions on that better than I can. And also for capital outlay, it's the same story. Over $200 million are encumbered for projects. They're just have not been, they're in process. And as far as specific projects, I'm going to have to refer to Steve on that. And the last statement I have is, I have 3 columns for the major funds, which are stormwater, solid waste, and transportation. And the non-major funds I just grouped as one because they're, too numerous and not significant enough to go over at this point. This is an overview. Stormwater fund, the charges for service, we're already at 100%. And capital outlay are projects that are also in process. And I think either John or Steve would be able to address where we are at that with those. For solid waste, we've received over 100% of our revenues. Our expenditures are about 68%, so we're trending high right now for solid waste, which is attributed to our new development, so we're collecting more revenue. And I think that the percentage is a little bit out of whack because the expenditures are at 68%, which is on par for where we should be, 3/4 of the way, but we receive the revenues are higher. And transportation, the revenues are lagging a little bit at this point. We're at 52% of what we budgeted. And the projects for transportation are the Rhode Island project, which has experienced some delays, but John can address that a lot better than I can. So as far as the financials, not the projects, is there any questions you have for me?
Commissioner Bradford?
Couple questions, and I don't know if you want to answer this or not. Okay, so when we look at it
Which
says
fund are you
excess
looking
over
at?
revenues, the first one.
Okay,
The
general fund?
statements of revenues and expenditures in general fund.
Okay.
Okay. The $9 million. It says excess and deficiency of revenues over expenditures. That's $9,976,000.
Yes.
Where do you expect that number to be going, obviously you can project towards the end of the year?
I
Because
think,
we've only got a few months left, right?
right, and that's going to depend on where we are with the capital projects. I imagine, Rhode Island is going to be carried over. I don't think that's possible to finish. It's a long-term project. So that's, that's one of the biggest elements in that line item.
Okay. Over the last 6 years, I'm trying to remember, but I don't think we have ever come in where we've been short on the budget at the end of the year. On an average, do you guys have an average of what is generally carried over each year from year to year and put back into the general fund?
I don't have that off the top of my head. That I'm sure we could come up with it, but it's difficult. Most capital projects are long-term projects, and I don't think, it's unlikely that they can be finished in one fiscal year. The fiscal year, the fact that it ends on 9/30 is, that's what everybody uses. That's generally accepted for business and government, but it is an arbitrary deadline. And there's a whole host of reasons that projects are delayed for permitting reasons and which I can't really address, but most capital projects tend to be long-term and they will cross over more than one fiscal year.
And then where in the budget would it be, because obviously we list the capital projects, but I believe we also carried funds over to cover the I'm going to say Long Island.
Rhode Island?
Rhode Island. Ugh, my mind's not there, guys, I promise you. The Rhode Island where are those funds listed on here? You're just bringing in expenditures, but we did transfer money over to cover part of that, right? So what I'm not seeing is like anything that we've carried over. I mean, obviously you wouldn't show it on that. How much money did we carry over that?
I'm not sure how much we carried over, but I believe Rhode Island, we budgeted for the first time in 2022, didn't we, John?
That is correct. We budgeted last year. We originally were going to take money out of the fund balance. We ended up taking the money out of the transportation fund. And let me just explain three major projects. Rhode Island, we have been working on right-of-way acquisition because if we were not able to acquire one location, we were going to have to go to another location. We were just able to finalize an amount and a location that will be coming to commission in September for approval of that purchase of the right-of-way. In addition, the I-4 logistics project was going to dedicate some right-of-way. We want to make sure that was okay. We are now at a point that we will be putting the RFQ out for the actual design work on Rhode Island and Normandy. As you all recall, you just did a tri-party agreement related to I-4 logistics that has some of the funding that we will be able to use to offset. On two of the stormwater projects, Lake Windsor and Lake Gleason, we have been working through design challenges as to where the reclaim line will go once we take the water out of the lake, treat it, and put it in the reclaim system. In addition, we have attempted once already to get state funding through the legislature. We were not successful this last legislative session. However, there is additional money that they're taking. They took application for last month. We applied for money on Lake Gleason. I believe we have a pretty good chance of getting those funds. But meanwhile, we are working on the design, preliminary design, and the permitting process so that those projects can move forward. But they are definitely projects that we will carry over and hopefully complete next year. Same thing with Rhode Island. We have, like I said, we've acquired a significant part of the right-of-way that we needed to make Rhode Island work. And that will be coming to commission in September.
Well, I guess, and this is my question. So when I look at this that you've given us, where it has, all of the revenues for the projects, and that's right. But what I don't see is, it makes it look like everything's just come out of that. But a lot of these projects.
I didn't really get a chance to finish answering your question. So you're asking me where all those projects were. So if you go just to under other financing sources and uses.
Is that on that same one? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's towards the bottom. So under the revised budget,
okay,
I'm looking
that
at
8.4.
Yeah, so 403,000 is for debt service, and the 7,999,000 that is transfers out to other funds, and that's where the projects are.
Okay. So
if you remember when we budgeted for 2022, we had over $10 million that went from the general fund to other funds. And it's a little bit wonky, but if you look under capital outlay with general funds, that's the capital replacement, the $3,180,000. If you sum that with the transfers to other funds, that comes to just over $11 million. So we budgeted at the end of 2020 $10,135,000 for capital projects. Some went to transportation fund for Rhode Island. Some went to municipal complex, and then funds went to parks projects. And the reason I use revised budget is because changes are made throughout the year when we come to you for budget amendments. And one of that increased this was the $864,000 that we received from law enforcement. So that went into municipal complex. And also, I think there was a small amount of money that was rolled over from the prior year for capital replacement.
Okay, good.
So
I just wanted to see where all these rollovers, and that was falling into that.
And it gets a little, you try to condense everything down to a couple pages for overview purposes, and then some of the detail gets lost. But I'll be happy to answer any questions
No,
like
that's
that.
perfect. That answered it. Thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
Yes, she pretty much answered the question on that, like where did that go? So thank you for that. And that's what I was asking, if we had, it's been a year now, if we have a general idea, withstanding any CIP, how much we're rolling over, withstanding any of those projects, do we have an amount that we're really rolling over general fund, million, 2 million? Any?
I just can't
We don't have
really
anything left
ballpark it
over.
right now.
I'm not seeing. You know what I mean? Out of the,
Well, it depends on how many of these projects get finished between now and the end of the year. And this is as of June, you know, I mean, it's hard to,
yeah.
you know, finish things up and get before you, so there's some lag time. I can't really predict where the projects are going to end up at the end of the year.
Yeah, and what we were talking about is like, we brought this up before, some of the projects that we canceled, right, and then transferred that money over. I mean, that's what I was asking for, but you cleared that up with your statement to Madam Commissioner Bradford, so thank
Yeah,
you.
so if it's unspent, it just stays in the
Yeah.
fund, and either we assign it to another project next year in the budget process, or it just stays in fund balance. The money doesn't go away, it
Yep.
just stays.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah. Did you state that the revenues in the water department were up due to late fees going up?
Yes.
Do you know how much was paid in late fees so far this year to date?
Yes. Now, this is as of June 30th. The late fees were $289,727.
Okay, thank you. And then that 10 million that we keep discussing about, I thought last year during the budget time that the commission approved the 10 million to go only to the Rhode Island extension, but I keep hearing it's been put in this category, it's been put in another category. Did that 10 million not go just to the Rhode Island extension?
No, the whole 10 million did not go to the Rhode Island extension.
Okay, because in last year's budget, that's what I was reading, that the 10 million was supposed to be dedicated to the Rhode Island extension. And I believe the resolution that was passed by the commission stated that that was supposed to go and be dedicated to Rhode Island.
I think maybe if you have some time after the meeting, I can go through the budget book and explain it a little more fully so that it's clear for you.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you I'm glad that we have this at least quarterly, half year to see where we stand. We've been asking for that for a long time, to see where we are with the capital projects, and it's good to have an update in terms of where we are and what the projected revenues are. And for expenses, we don't know. I mean, we just basically are still in the middle of hurricane season. Who knows what can happen? And that'll cause all sorts of delays if we have. Hopefully we don't, but we don't know. Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, now we're going to go to item number 6, ordinances and public hearings. The first public hearing is a resolution number 2022-23, establishing the annual rate resolution for stormwater services for fiscal year 2022-2023. Is that you again, Mary, or? Basically, this is the resolution that we're keeping the same rate for stormwater.
Yes.
And 128.
Right. There's no change in stormwater. We always do 2 non-ad valorem votes. I think the first one was in June.
Yes.
And this is the second one, and I believe we have about 7 of them. So there's been no change from the first vote in June.
Okay.
So the stormwater is 128 equivalent residential units.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor,
Mayor, if there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-23. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Second.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Avila Vasquez, seconded by Commissioner King. Is anyone from the public signed up to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
Then we'll close the public hearing portion of this. It's a resolution, so we don't need to read that. So may we vote, please? Joyce, would you read the motion again?
Motion reads, I move to adopt resolution number 2022-23. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
And the motion passes 7-0. Item B is public hearing resolution number 2022-24, establishing the annual rate of assessment for solid waste service for fiscal year 2022-2023. And that is also the same as last year, correct, Mary?
Yes, $202.80.
Okay, commissioners, there's no changes on this one either. Does anyone want to make a motion? Yes, ma'am?
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-24. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Madam Mayor,
Properly moved by Vice Mayor, seconded by Commissioner King. Yes.
She needs to do that one more time. She said 2022-2024. I think it's supposed to be 2025.
Joyce?
2024.
In our script, I move to adopt resolution number 2022-24.
Mine says 25. I'm on street lighting.
No, we're on solid waste.
Oh, we passed that. Got it messed up backwards. Okay,
That's solid
my bad.
waste. Okay, is there anyone from the public that signed up to speak on this item?
no, Mayor.
Then we'll close the public comment portion of this. So we have, Joyce, just for clarity, please reread the motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-24. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Okay, may we vote, please? Motion passes 7-0. Next item is item C, resolution number 2022-25, establishing the annual rate resolution for street lighting services for fiscal year 2022-2023. Also no change on these street lighting districts, which are requested by the residents, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, do we have anyone from the public that signed up to speak for that?
No, Mayor.
And we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. Commissioner Ramos, you're on the board.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 2022-25. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Properly moved by Commissioner Ramos, seconded by Commissioner King. Would you please read the resolution again, and may we vote?
Motion reads, I move to adopt resolution number 2022-25. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Motion passes 7-0. Item D, public hearing, resolution 2022-26, establishing the annual rate resolution for Lake McGarrity Aquatic Weed Control Services for fiscal year 2022-2023. And this is also on a tiered rate system for those people living around Lake McGarrity, also agreed to by the residents. Any changes, Mary?
None since the first reading, except just so you're aware.
It
that
went
the
down.
rate- Yeah.
It went down.
Exactly.
Okay, anybody from the public sign up to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
And we'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. May we have a motion, please? Somebody's on the board. Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 2022-26. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Properly moved by Commissioner Ramos, seconded by Commissioner King. We've already been through public comment. Please reread the motion and let us vote, please.
Motion reads, I move to adopt resolution number 2022-26. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Motion passes 7-0. Item E is public hearing, resolution number 2022-27, establishing the special assessment resolution nuisance abatement services for fiscal year 2022-2023. Commissioner McCool. Are you on the board for this one?
Ma'am? Yes.
You were? Okay.
Yes, thank you. This message is, or this question is for Mr. Peters or whomever. In adopting this annually, is this going to be different than when we do, when we start doing the rental ordinance, right? Will this go away, the nuisance abatement, and it'll be based on the actual per parcel cost, right? That cost will be, will this still be here after we do the,
Right, we will be bringing the rental ordinance to the commission next month in a form of a workshop. That particular ordinance is anticipating a per parcel fee for the rental, and so that will be totally separate from this.
okay, can you just, I just want to, for clarification, how so? How that will be different than the nuisance abatement here?
Well, first of all, the rental ordinance, I think we're not anticipating will take effect until the 23-24 budget year. And if it is, if the special assessment, if the abatement is part of that, it will be adjusted next year to cover that.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any members of the public that signed up for this item?
No, Mayor.
And we'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. We need a motion and a second on this item.
I'll make a motion.
Yes, ma'am?
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-27. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Avila Vasquez, seconded by Commissioner King. Will you please read the motion, and may we vote then, please?
Motion reads, I move to adopt resolution number 2022-27. The acting city manager has the authority to correct scrivener's errors and the like.
Okay, the motion passes 7-0. Next item is item F, another public hearing. The request for continuance to a time-certain date of September 6th, 2022 for ordinance number 13-2022, Fernanda Place RPUD Major Amendment to include a new plus or minus 43.55 acre phase 3, to the Fernanda Place RPUD. Mr. Paradise, this is a request for a continuance.
It is, and the intent is basically to reevaluate and redesign the project. I would like to make a correction to the continuance date. We have a conflict on September 6th based on the city's budget process and the school district. I am suggesting that the City Commission continue this to a time-certain date of September 7th, 2022, in lieu of September 6th. And the applicant is aware of this one-day deferral and agrees to it.
So, Mr. Paradise, to be clear, for those listening, watching, and here, Monday, September 5th would normally be a commission meeting date. It is Labor Day.
That is correct.
So
Yes,
then we
ma'am.
would automatically move that meeting to Tuesday, the 6th.
Correct.
However, we'll be voting on budget and millage and so forth in September, right?
That is correct. Yes,
And
ma'am.
by state law, it cannot be held the same day as another public hearing for either the county or the school board, so that residents across the county may attend all of those. So we cannot, by law, have a conflict. So then, to be clear, our normal Monday, September 5th meeting would be moved to Wednesday, September 7th, due to
are
Labor
correct.
Day and the conflict with the school board.
Yes, Madam Mayor,
For their
that is
millage
correct.
rate reading, okay?
That is correct, yes.
All
ma'am.
right, so we just want to be clear with that. Commissioner McCool?
For scheduling purposes, our regular meeting will be moved to the 7th, the 7th, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Let's see, Commissioner Ramos.
If there are no further questions, I hereby move to continue the first reading of ordinance number 13-2022 to a time-certain date of September 7th, 2022. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections in scrivener's errors and the like.
Properly moved by Commissioner Ramos, seconded by Commissioner King. Before we go on, is there any members of the public that signed up for this?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. Joyce, will you please reread the motion, just to be clear on the date?
Motion is I hereby move to continue the first reading of ordinance number 13-2022 to a time-certain date of September 7th, 2022. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener's errors and the like.
Thank you, ma'am. May we vote, please? The motion passes 7-0. That finishes our new business item, so we'll move on to item 7, old business. One item on this line, which is item 7A. It's a public hearing, resolution number 2022-30, establishing the proposed millage rate for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022-2023. Mary, are you doing this one, or is Mr. Peters, or the both of you? This is a... Basically, what this resolution will do will set the maximum millage rate for the trim notice, the notice where you get your notice of proposed property taxes. The maximum is what we can set tonight. If anyone has any changes, if the commission has changes when we actually set the millage rate, which will be the first reading September 7th, part of the reason we can't have that conflict, and the second reading would be 2 weeks after that, we can always go lower on the millage rate, then we cannot go higher. So what is set tonight is the maximum that we can do, and then we will devise a budget from that point on. Mr. Peters, any comments or anything for this item?
No, ma'am. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I would like to be able to go all the way through, and then I will have time at the end for questions and comments.
Yes, sir.
Title is City of Deltona Setting in the Maximum Millage Rate. Background. To date, the City Commission has conducted a strategic planning session, 3 budget workshops, and a line-by-line budget review special meeting. On July 18th, the Commission approved the maximum millage rate of 7.4955 on a 4-2 vote. Any rate over rollback requires 5 votes. I just want to make that clear. On July 20th, the Sheriff's Department office informed us that our contract will increase approximately $3 million per year beginning in fiscal year 23-24. Not the coming year, but beginning the year after that. We had lively discussion about that at the workshop. And then on July 25th, the Commission agreed to reconsider the 7.4955 millage rate in light of the July 20th notice from the sheriff. Annual revenue and fund balance analysis. This analysis considered 2 components, the millage rate and revenue growth. During a previous meeting, a question came up regarding why we're not showing in our 5-year analysis increases in revenue. At that time, we discussed our concern with a downturn in the economy and various other elements. But for the purpose of this exercise, we did a spreadsheet that shows various levels of revenue growth or decrease and what the impact is. The following millage rates were used, 7.2, I'm sorry, I had one error here, 7.2318, I had too many twos, and that is the adjusted rollback that came from the state, 7.4955, 7.85, which is the current rate, and 7.9550, which is 110% of the adjusted rollback. The following annual revenue growth was considered: -3%, 0%, 2%, 3%, and 4%. I just want to note, at this time, it's in red up there, the constitutional amendment for this November would give an additional $50,000 exemption to fire and police personnel, teacher, active duty military, and certain other categories. And these are not included in this analysis. Quite frankly, it's virtually impossible to budget. I did some research today, and I think you all some information from the census, the U.S. Department of Census, with some information. And if you looked at that, the city of Deltona has about 9.1% of our households involve government workers, but not all government workers are part of the constitutional amendment, but that kind of gives you like an upper ceiling as to how many parcels may be involved. That would be 9% would be the upper limit. So that's just some information. All right, the chart here, the reason I have multiple copies is it's very difficult to read, especially on the screen. But what we did is, as I just said before, we broke down each of the 4 different millage rates and the -3, 0, 2, 3, and 4% raises, carried them out to 5 years, and we showed the difference over 5 years. For instance, a -3% at the rollback is a 11.5% reduction over a 0%. And then the 5-year fund balance is shown in the last column. I highlighted in yellow the line that we're recommending, which is 0 growth and 7.85. And even at that, we would end up with a $3.492 million deficit at the end of 5 years. So we looked at some cost-cutting options. The first one, and remember, I think it's important for the public to realize that not all capital projects or personnel is subject to this. The Avalon taxes is our general fund. People that work or projects that are in enterprise accounts, such as stormwater and the water and sewer funds, are not going to do us any good. I could cut projects all I wanted in Deltona Water. It would have no impact on the general fund balance. So when we looked at the capital cost reduction, we only looked at those projects that fall under the general fund. In Parks and Recreation, next year we're showing $3.24 million to meet the ADA compliance required by the 2012 ADA transition plan, and $4 million for building repair and replacement. That would start not next year, but the year after. In the streets, we have $250,000 appropriation for ADA sidewalk projects required by the 2012 ADA transition plan. And then lastly, we have a new fire station that would begin toward the second year. And the 4 years of that money equates to $2.8 million, but the financing is actually over 20 years. So well beyond the 5 years, there would be a saving. The reason we had a fire station in the budget is it is anticipated as part of our accreditation review and our response time review that we will likely need to mothball an existing fire station and put one in a better location for response times. And so that's the reason it was in the budget. And then the second area of cost reduction is employee reduction. We evaluate employee reduction through attrition, keyword, to eliminate a deficit at the end of the 5-year projected budget and to eliminate the annual deficit spending. 2 different things here. The first category, as I showed you on the chart before, in our recommended budget, was $3.4 million in the hole at the end of 5 years. So the first way we're looking at it is we would take that $3.4 million and make it 0. How many personnel cuts would it take in order to get to that level? The second chart that we're going to be showing you is what would it take for us to balance the budget every year without going into deficit spending? And so we will go over that in just a minute. To begin the process, we needed to do a personnel cost analysis. What is the actual cost for a full-time equivalent position in the city of Deltona? To assess the impact of an equivalent full-time employee, we compiled the salaries, FICA, insurance costs, and retirement payments for all general fund employees, 283 in the city of Deltona, and opposite word, general fund employees. Assuming fire and rescue operation cannot be impacted, the remaining general fund employees would be 191 employees, have an average total compensation of $69,779. This equates to 14.3 full-time equivalent employees per $1 million in expenses. This chart put in here just to show the red is the firefighters. What I did is I looked at positions that had multiple people in those positions, because in reality, those are the ones who are most likely to have attrition. When you have 15 park techs, they're more likely to have turnover than if you just have a single position, such as the city manager, although that may not be an accurate example. But the firefighters, on average, their full compensation is $96,739. Code compliance officers, $67,739. Building customer service, $61,780. Building inspectors, $101,407. Fire inspectors, $87,064. Fleet mechanics, $73,932. Human resource clerk, $58,132. Parts maintenance technician, $58,634. A planner one, $78,977. A public works technician, $56,209. And traffic technician, $53,921. Taking an average of all these, a non-firefighter average is $69,779. And once again, we were talking about position per million, which is 14.3. So employee reduction through attrition to eliminate the 5-year budget deficit. This chart, once again, what we're showing is the millage rates, the different increases in revenue or decreases, the resulting 5-year balance, and using the 14.3 employees per million. You can see that at rollback with zero growth revenue, we're looking at 43 positions. At 7.4599 with zero growth, we're looking at 36 positions. At 7.85 with zero growth, we're looking at 13 positions. And at 7.955 at zero growth, we're looking at 6 positions. You can look through the chart and see what the impact of revenue increases and what have you. I will note that the only 2 millage rates that result in a situation where we would not need to cut positions are at 7.85 with 3 and 4% growth, and 7.955 with 2, 3, and 4% growth each year. Employee reduction to eliminate the annual deficit. Obviously, this is going to be a much larger number. As you see here, using the rollback rate at 0% growth would require 119 positions being reduced. Remember, there's only a pool of 180 some positions available to be cutting. So obviously, that's not realistic. At 7.4599 at 0% growth, it's 111 positions. At 7.85 at 0% growth, it's 83 positions. And at 7.955, 0% growth, it's 75 positions. Bottom line, we can't go to non-deficit spending because we won't have an operations left. But I thought that was important information to show you that somewhere between balancing it out at the end of 5 years to 0 versus having non-deficit spending, there's somewhere in here is a happy medium. I just wanted to give you the range. So in conclusion, I believe this is my conclusion, yeah. In red, staff is recommending a maximum millage rate of 7.85 with the assumption of 0% growth, which is equal to the current fiscal year 21-22 millage rate. Given the uncertainty of the overall economy, the potential impact of the state constitutional referendum on additional exemption for fire, police, teachers, active duty military, etc., impact of the additional $3 million per year sheriff costs, lack of approval of a rental ordinance which will result in $2 million per year, not the coming year, but the following year, the limited option to reduce capital costs, and the impact on government service due to increasing staff. Once again, we're recommending 7.85. With that, I'm open for any questions or comments that you all may have.
Commissioner McCool?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to throw some other data in there also. I want to bring back to the fact when we talk about our ad valorem and what that covers, we are only being able to generate 100% of taxable revenue off of 45% of our assessed value in our city. Is that correct, Mr. Peters?
I was making sure you said it right. Yes, you are correct exactly how you said it, but I want to emphasize the key point that I was listening for, and that is assessed values. It's not property, but the overall assessed value.
Overall assessed value, okay? So we're not able to capture 100% of the available revenue on taxes in our city. We're at 45% of it, right? At 100% we're capturing, correct?
Yes, ma'am, but a key element that's in here, and that is the constitutional amendment.
But I'm bringing that up. Wait for it. Wait for it. I'm bringing it up. I want you to understand that there's another 10% possibility. If you look at the number of first responders, teachers, and military members now also, that number could go down to only 35% of the property that we have, we are available to tax at 100% of its value. So when we talk about revenue, when most cities generate that revenue, we do not have that available to us in Deltona. It's not like we're taking the money and spending and partying on our taxpayers like some romantic political notions would have you believing. That's not it. We do not have it because we support a residential community that is diverse. We support widows. We support other people that get to claim homestead. We support that, our veterans, and we have to. So this is the revenue that is available to us because I'm telling you right now, people, I looked at every position that we have in the city. It's available to the public too. And I want to know which 50 people you're going to tell that they don't have a job because we're in political season. And it sounds sexy to say, let's go to rollback, because that's what it is. When you look at our finances, I hate talking about a resident having to pay, but we only have a certain pool. We're working hard and fast on bringing up the revenue, but that's where the most of our revenue in this bedroom community comes from. So am I correct? Did I go out to lunch? Am I correct? Stacy, Mr. Peters, am I correct in what I just said there?
The one thing I would correct, ma'am, is when you said 10% more because of the constitutional amendment, as I just said, the census showed 9.1% of all of the residents are government employees, but people sitting in this room that work for the city of Deltona, not in the fire department, would not be subject to those exemptions.
Right, I understand. That's what I said. First responders, teachers, and military members.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable with like 5 or 6% when it's all said and done, but that's a significant number even at that.
Yeah, and it is. And it is, because we're talking about how much of the tax base is supporting our infrastructure with the tax dollars. That's why this is being asked for. It's not because we have bad spenders, as people would like you to think. It is not. It's because we don't have that base, and we need to talk about continuing supporting the people that deserve these breaks while not breaking our cities. That's the reality of it. This is available for anybody. Anybody see every position listed in the city. If you want to tell somebody, when you're talking about going to rollback, who we're going to cut. So I have more questions, but I will.
Thank you. I have Commissioner Bradford and then Commissioner Sosa on the board.
Okay. And then you may say that this is something that doesn't pertain to now, but to me it does pertain to now. So I'm going to go back to the 6 firefighters that were requested by our chief. I know at the time we talked about, let's just put it off and let's wait. And I've been approached, I'm not even going to lie. You know, these guys, we're looking at overtime. How much do we have in overtime? What's budgeted in overtime this budget cycle? 3 million?
Say that again?
3 million?
4.
For overtime. The firefighter budget was at $4 million just in overtime.
No, ma'am. I believe the current budget year, and Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, was about $500,000. However, this year we will probably approach $1 million.
1 million. Okay. So we're going to have $1 million in overtime just on our firefighters, but we can't afford to hire 6 guys. You know, this goes more to just throwing in the budget, and I'm going to say this out here. You've got guys working mandatory overtime, ridiculous hours. These are guys that are picking up your loved ones. These are guys that are administering drugs. These are guys that we put people's lives on the line for, and we are working them like dogs. There's no other way to put it. We're talking about cutting positions, but yet we cut some of the most important positions. The Sheriff's Department office says, hey, I'm going to increase your budget $3 million. We don't blink an eye. But we have a chief who in the 5.5 years I've been up here hasn't said, I need people. So when he says I need people, he needs people. We need these people. If you talk to these guys, they will tell you they are exhausted. They have no family time. They have no me time. Who's going to cover the lawsuit when somebody has something done incorrectly because we have overtired people on these trucks and on these ambulances? I don't want to hold that liability. So, you know what? If you're going to tell me we can get some of my firefighters, or I would even be, or the guys in the trucks, or even like you said, you wanted to bring them first in and get them trained and put them on the ambulance units, I'm okay with that. You know, I think before we even said, hey, 3 1 year, 3 the next year. But this is life safety of our residents, and I don't think it's something that we can play games with.
Madam Mayor, if I can address. The discussion at the time had to do with the amount of overtime. The chief pointed out that this year that we've had several firefighters on FMLA, worker comp, that we have had impacts of COVID. He felt like that it was an unusual circumstance. He felt like that next year we would be able to get it back to the $500,000 in overtime. The key thing that I have to look at, and part of the reason I included it in the spreadsheet on personnel cost analysis, is in order to have 6 additional firefighters and still meet the goal of having enough personnel cut to meet the 0 deficit, I would have to cut 8.4 full-time equivalent positions in the balance of the general fund. So the number of people that we would have to cut would have to be increased, essentially 9 people, in order to be able to bring in the 6 additional firefighters. Just want to make that apparent, that there is a additional cost involved there in terms of personnel.
Commissioner Bradford, anything else before I go to Commissioner Sosa? Then we can come back? Or did you want to?
Come back so I don't say something I shouldn't.
Commissioner Sosa?
How many open FTE positions did we have this year, fiscal year '22?
Well,
I know it varies from position to position, but you should have a general view of how many total FTEs were open?
Right now, we are running about, citywide, about 19 to 20% vacancies. A number of those are on hold. And let me explain. For instance, in the Deltona Water, when we were doing the analysis on cost savings in Deltona Water, one of the key things that we have was that once we got the SCADA system in, we would be able to reduce the number of water plants, which would reduce the number of operators. So we have certain operator positions on hold. I placed, when I did the analysis based on acreage and building square footage, the additional positions that we added to Parks and Rec, we determined that there was actually 4 too many, so I put a hold on 4 positions. We also have put a hold on an events coordinator in the Parks and Rec department at this time to assess what's going to happen with the budget. Because quite frankly, if we reduce staffing, we may have to pull back on what programs we have in Parks and Rec, so there may not be a need for an events person. And there's other positions that are on hold, but most of these positions are in process. They're either advertised or we're reviewing applications. We have, just like any other government entity, we have a fairly high turnover rate. So at any given moment, what we have in terms of vacancies sometimes sounds high, but in reality, it is part of the usual turnover. Our vacancy rate is lower than many of our surrounding peer municipalities. For instance, I heard that Seminole County was somewhere around 30% vacancy. So it's not unusual. We do have a lot of vacancies right now.
Okay. So if we have 200 employees, and you got 20% vacancies, you got about 40 open slots, right?
Pardon me?
You have about 40 open positions, correct? That aren't filled right now?
Essentially.
Okay. So technically, if you did stay at a rollback or even a little higher than rollback, you're not firing anybody, you just wouldn't fill positions.
Commissioner Sosa, can I just stop for a minute? Because he mentioned positions in Deltona Water. We're only speaking of the general fund positions. So I think there needs to be clarity. The positions that you're talking about, we're not talking about stormwater, Deltona Water, any other enterprise fund. So what is our vacancies? That's still around the 40 vacant spots? I'm sorry, Commissioner Sosa, I just want to be clear because he talked about Deltona Water. I just want to make sure that it's not, the water's not muddied.
General fund that are not on hold, 18 positions.
18. Thank you.
Now, when we talk about general fund, how much money in salaries and benefits got swept over from 21 to 22 from vacancies, and how much money do you plan to get sweeping from 22 to 23 for vacancies?
I don't believe I think Mary indicated before when she was doing the quarterly review, we are not in a position to estimate what the rollover, what the vacant positions will result in terms of fund balance addition at the end of the year. There'll be some, but we're not in a position to be able to guesstimate that.
Okay. How many FTE positions did you add in 21-22, knowing that we might be on a decline?
We added 7 positions in code compliance and 15 positions in Parks and Rec. 4 of those positions in Parks and Rec were never filled. So 7 and 11 would be 18 positions.
Okay. Now, when we look at this budget, we're factoring in a $3 million increase for the Volusia County Sheriff's Office in this budget, correct?
That is
Now,
correct.
that is not for additional services, that's just for additional charges for the contract, correct?
That is based on the study that Volusia County commissioned, and that study had 6 different options in terms of what we got funded. Volusia County chose to go with option 3, which increased our share by $3 million over the current $12 million, so
So a 25% increase.
pretty close.
Okay. Now, have you met with the sheriff and the county manager to discuss these increases to see if this is even going to be a reality?
I had a long conversation with the sheriff Saturday before this last one, and I had a brief conversation with the county manager last Wednesday. The county manager indicated that, first of all, he apologized for not letting us know before they did, because apparently this decision was made back in early June, which we could have adjusted to in the initial recommendations. He gave an indication that he's willing to work with us. What work with us is, he didn't identify. My hope is that we can do some type of depth graduation. But, is that a 2-year phase in? Is that a 3-year phase in? Or is that a 5-year phase in? I don't know. We are planning to have a meeting with the 4 cities involved, Oak Hill, Pearson, DeBerry, and Deltona, with the county manager and the sheriff to discuss this further, but I do not believe a date has been set. No, I know it hasn't been set. So until we have that conversation, but let's just put it in perspective. The best case scenario, in my opinion, would be a 5-year phase in. A 5-year phase in my view, would be 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, then 100%. Under that scenario, the savings to the city would be about $3 million. So, let me go. It would be $6 million savings if we did that. That's very rosy. What I expect will be either a 2 or a 3 year. A 3-year would be $1 million savings, or $2 million savings. So even at that, we're still looking at significant fund balance issues going out 5 years. But the bottom line is we don't know what that number is going to be.
Okay.
Hopefully, if we can set a millage rate tonight, and before September, we can have meetings and we know what it's going to be, and we can make some adjustments in the final budget, and maybe even the final millage rate. What you're doing tonight is setting a maximum millage rate for the purpose of a trim notice. There's still going to be a workshop in August to go over the budget again before we come back in September to do the final 2 readings to set the millage and to set the budget. So hopefully that meeting with the county manager and the sheriff and the other cities can happen, and we'll be in a better position to address that and make adjustments accordingly before the final budget's done.
Okay. Now, you put all your percentages on zero-based revenue generation over the next 5 years. But
No, hang on. Not tonight, I didn't. Tonight, I gave you a -3 based on a recession, 0, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
So that we could see what the impacts would be.
All right, but you, on previous ones, you put 0 additional revenues generated over the next 5 years.
Correct.
Now, that's not correct, because we have Amazon that should start paying taxes, next fiscal year?
That's already been accounted for in here.
Is that, because I know we take that money in, but then we write them a check again.
Right.
So have we added that additional revenue in there without writing that check?
We have accounted for that in the budget.
Okay.
a 5-year budget.
What about the new 1 million square foot facility that's going in over there at Portland? Have we determined when that's going to go live and when they'll start paying taxes on that? Because that'll be probably, what, another $600,000-700,000?
Yes, sir. Typically, the taxes are 1 year in arrearage. If they were to build that building as fast as Amazon got built, it would occur next year. So that means that the revenue from that would not occur, not the following year, but the year after. So it'll be the 3rd year in. And we do not know what the end user is going to be, so we don't know what that value is going to be.
Okay. Now, when we talk about revenues, we're only talking about ad valorem revenues here. What is the percentage of money that's generated through the city that comes from ad valorem, and how much money comes from other revenue streams?
In the chart that we gave you all at the last meeting, I'm going to use an example of the rollback rate is 7.2318. The ad valorem revenues would be $24,923,000. The non-ad valorem would be $27,019,000. So roughly, the ad valorem is 42% of the total.
Okay. Now, basically, what you want us to do tonight is set it at 7.85, which would be a 15% increase over last year's tax bills.
How much?
Let's see, in the agenda packet, I said it looked like it read it was a 15.2% increase in ad valorem taxes.
I don't believe that. The millage rate, 110% of the adjusted rollback is actually 7.955 is 10% higher than the current rollback, adjusted rollback. So the 7.85 would be somewhat less than 10%.
Okay, because in your agenda packet here, it says you're looking at a 15.2% from rollback rate.
Can I ask what you're looking at?
Just under old business, 7A, under background, it says reflects an increase of 15.2% from the rollback rate of 6.8141.
Mary, you want to take that one?
Can you hit the mic, please?
15.2% is the increase from 7.85 from the rollback rate, not the adjusted rollback, the 6.1814.
Okay, so from rollback rate, it is a 15% increase.
Right.
15.2. Okay. So basically, if we go at the 7.85 today, what we're doing is we're asking taxpayers to pay an extra 15.2% in their ad valorem taxes.
I don't know if that's actually accurate because, and this is what Commissioner McCool was referring to, because depend on what your assessed value is between last year and this year, the difference between what you're actually paying is, because I did my own, and the percentage was not nearly close to 15%. I think it was like 6%.
Okay. Well, and that goes to my point, is my rate will not go up much. I've lived here over 20 years. I've been homesteaded for 21 years. My rate's not going to go up so much, maybe 3-4% at tops. What we need to look at is we got 36,000 rooftops. If 30% of those are rentals, we need to look at the folks that are renting, because they're going to absorb that, and they're going to pay more than a 15% increase in ad valorem taxes. So
You mean being passed on through the...
We pass it on to the owner of that rental property, and he's going to pass it on to who? The renter. So we also need to look at that as well. All right, thank you. I'm good.
You're good, Commissioner Sosa? Okay, thank you. Commissioner McCool, did you have a question? No. Okay. Okay, so we have heard from the city manager and the finance director and also the commission. Did anyone from the public sign up to speak on this item?
Terry Ellis, please.
Thank you. Oh, did she step outside? Okay, we'll go ahead and hold Albert.
Albert Bryant, please.
Wow. That's all I got to say. Let me think if I get this straight here. Last Monday, we talked about the increase that we have in the sheriff's budget. If I remember right, that was 4.28 mils that the actual sheriff is taking out of our ad valorem. That's almost half of our ad valorem that the sheriff is going to be taking out. So the other question is, where's the other half of it go? Oh, maybe Ms. Bradford knows. The fire department takes the other half, because isn't it the safety and the first responders that take up, what is it, almost 100% of our ad valorem taxes? So that considered, when you take and think about this, you have a 7.85. You say that's 10% increase. I disagree, because it doesn't take 10% out of my pocket. It maybe take 1% out of my pocket, maybe 1.7 this year, if we are correct. Because, as you know, I've been here 30 years. I'm on Save Your Homes. So at the very max, they can take 3% away from me by increasing. Well, in all reality, I think it's going to be like 1.7 this year, if I remember right, maybe 1.5. Now, the other thing we got to think about is y'all are supposed to, by statute, create a balanced budget. By statute, you are create a balanced budget. That's what y'all are supposed to vote on. So if y'all vote on something that's not a balanced budget, then what you're voting on is something against the Florida state statutes. So in reality, what you got to look at is 3 of y'all aren't going to be here after November. So in clear conscience, you don't really give a rat's butt, do you? Because you won't be here after October. So the next budget won't affect you. So you have to think about that as citizens when we look at y'all. Now, here's the bottom line, though. You talk about the fire department, and we need 6 extra people, and how tired they are. Well, how many firemen actually live in the city? How far do they have to drive to get here? How many jobs do they have outside of the fire department? Maybe that's why they're tired. But now let's think about this also. Because the real bottom line here, the real bottom line here for each and every one of y'all to think about is, what does the ad valorem actually pay for? Public safety. In all reality, it pays for public safety. How safe do you want these people to be? At rollback, they're not going to be very safe, are they? At 50% from rollback to what we are now, are they going to be safe? No, I doubt it. Now, everybody knows that every year I've come up here and raised Cain because y'all haven't gone to rollback or haven't even come close to cutting it in the middle, which I've asked for 3 years. No, y'all ignored me on that. So let's think about this again for just 1 second. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a deficit? Or do you want to be somewhere in the middle? Not quite at deficit, but not making what I call a gain. The other thing you may think about?
Thank you, sir.
A hiring freeze.
Is Ms. Ellis back yet?
Okay.
John Peters, you're in a no-win situation here, pal. But anyway, having 20 positions and paying a lot of overtime, come on. Amazon wouldn't do that, would they? But anyway, I want to go back in time a little bit. I think it was 2017. We had I'm going to go to the fireman's pension. We had a commissioner up here. We all know his name. He was like this, he short little boom boom. But he worked 30 years for the fire department, right? His son was employed by the fire department, okay? Now this commissioner, he was allowed to vote on this pension. Now, it's not the same pension as today, probably, but he was allowed to cast a vote, right? And I strenuously objected. I said, it's a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest. How can you have a man that worked 30 years for the fire department, retired from the fire department, his son works there, and I was at odds with our legal advisor over here who said it wasn't a conflict of interest. Maybe in Deltona, that might be the only place that this wouldn't be a conflict of interest. And getting to pensions kill cities. I don't know what you know about pensions, but they do kill. They do kill cities. It's like a blob. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ellis back yet? Because now we're going to close public comment. We're going to close the public comment portion of this hearing. I apologize. Let's see. Commissioner Bradford, and then Commissioner King. I cannot pull up my two items, so I'm going to go ahead and try to pull it up. The two Dropbox items will not come up. I mean, not Dropbox, the PDFs for me. So Commissioner Bradford, go ahead. It's not that I'm not listening. I'm just trying to get this data.
Albert, I want to respond to that. It is not that they're working other jobs. And it's funny, and I'm just going to throw this out here. Mr. Peters, I spoke with you over the weekend regarding this, and I find it enlightening that he knows about the conversation just by his comments, which I'm very disappointed in, which is why I don't go speak to city manager. So they're working overtime, which is not 40 hours a week. They're working excessive. Obviously, it's more than 40 hours a week and not another job if we're going to be tracking $1 million in overtime. And just like Mr. Bellick said, I don't think you're going to see a business saying, hey, I'm not going to hire staff. I'm good with just budgeting overtime. I have never heard a fiscally responsible business talking that I'm going to repeatedly do the same insaneness over and over and over a year. Never. Show me a successful business that continues to do that. I'm just going to keep going into overtime, which is time and a half. You understand that? Time and a half. Okay? You've kind of answered the question of how many positions are open. So at this point, yeah, I do recommend, if this is this critical, we need to have a hiring freeze, number one. Number two, I'd like to know what positions that you're going to be eliminating or not hiring for at this point. And how much, I'd like to know how much in funds is being carried over from the positions that have not been filled from this current budget. What's the dollar amount from this year? And I'd also like to have the last 5-year analysis of, at the end of the year, when we come through and we do a sure up and we're like, hey, we got $1.5 million. What you want to put it on? Yeah, let's put it on some parks. Let's put it on some of this. I haven't had one time in 5.5 years that we haven't sit here at the end of the month and said, I got an extra 800,000. I got an extra $1 million. I got an extra $2 million. What are we going to do with this money? So I don't go with scare tactics. I'm going by where we've been the last 5.5 years that I've sat up here, and it's not just Mr. Peters, every one of them, well, if you don't go with this, I'm going to have to cut this position, then I'm going to have to cut that position, I'm going to do that. If you knew this was coming, we shouldn't have been hiring these positions already. I just read up on some enlightening information that says, yes, we are in the second quarter of our GDP going down with the homes. However, what do they say? We have a very strong economy. Anybody who has been out there in the industry and been in the building industry and doing this, buying the goods, will tell you when a price of lumber goes from $10 to $25 and all the materials are tripled, heck yeah, we're going to come down for 2 consecutive quarters, and we're still not where we should be. So we'll probably come down a third quarter. So I guess that means we're all in dire straits, in trouble. No, we need to level off some. That doesn't mean that we're still not above the average of where we were. We are already up, and I think they were predicting 30% over housing from the last year, June 2021, which we will then see next year's taxes. So I'm just throwing this out here.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner King, and then Commissioner Sosa, and then I'd like to say a few words.
Okay, well, y'all throwing out a bunch of numbers and everything, that's all great. I have to go from another angle, okay? I've been sitting here, this is my 4th year here, and I have called for a rollback every single year. And it hasn't happened yet. Now we're looking at, hey, maybe we're going to get it this year. And all of a sudden now we're looking at not only not having a rollback, but raising the millage. You have got to be kidding me. Let's leave it where it is, or let's raise it, because only 45% of the people in this city pay their full share. So let's just screw them, the 45% that are paying so much, so that everybody else will be able to take care of things. You know, that ain't the way I look at it. We have got, here's the other thing. You all sit up here, and some of y'all sit out there and you go, well, it ain't too much money. It's just a little bit. It's just a little bit more. I can handle $5 here, $6 there. Can you? We're paying $3,000 more a year in fuel costs. We're spending more money for rent. We're spending more money for our insurance. We're spending more money for bread and meat and eggs to try to put food in our bellies. We're paying more for our drugs, for our medical needs. Well, let's just go ahead and keep the millage the same. Yeah, look, let's not lie to anybody. When you leave the millage rate the same and the property value goes up, you are paying more in taxes. Oh, I'm sorry. That was like the beginning of the meeting, right? I didn't mean to be so loud.
You're fine.
That's good.
You're paying more in taxes. Don't be fooled. Everything is going up. Oh, yeah. Everything except the county. The county went to full rollback, and they're patting themselves on the back for it. You know why? Because they're passing the cost on to us. We have stopped kicking the can down the road on several items this year alone. We do not have to kick the can down the road on everything this year. We have got to have a little bit of breathing room, and our citizens deserve it. Listen, I don't think there's a person out here that will say that they feel like they're not well protected or safe in their home. Now, you might be one that says, oh, yeah, I am. Okay. I'm sorry that you feel that way. But I think the majority of people feel safe and feel protected. And for us to sit up here, and I'm sorry, I'm not really disagreeing with you, but we can't continue to say public safety and protection, public safety, and just continue to jack up the price on all the citizens in town. Here's what we do. let's leave the millage rate where we've already set the maximum, and let's get our finance office and our staff to work a budget around the money that they're going to get in, rather than us to sit up here and say, hey, let's just raise the millage or leave it where it is and make the citizens budget their money so that they can pay us. Because that's what's happening if we raise it or leave it where it is. We're just telling them, hey, we know you don't have enough money at home, but here's what you got to do. Budget your money so you can give it to us so that we can spend it on your public safety. We've been doing that for the last 4 years. And those people out there are the ones that are paying for it. Year after year after year. And I'm sorry, I do not agree with doing that. We're making some great progress in this city on things that we have accomplished and that are being accomplished even while we sit here. We've made some great decisions. We're moving the city forward, but we can't move everything forward all at the same time at the expense of our citizens, and that's what we're doing. So that's my 2 cents. And unless somebody wants to holler at me and let me have a rebuttal, I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sosa and then Commissioner McCool. Then we'll wrap this up.
Okay. Basically, I'm the same with Commissioner King here. We have 36,000 rooftops estimated here in Deltona. Out of that, I keep getting told 30% of those are rentals. So that's about 12,000 residential rentals that we have in Deltona. Now, like Mr. Bryant said, he's only paying at tops 3%. And I said that too. The tops I'll pay is 3% because I've been homesteaded and I'm under Save Your Homes for the last 20 years. So question is, who's going to pay the 12% that he's not paying? Who's going to pay the 12% that I'm not paying? I'll tell you who it's going to be. It's going to be anybody that rents a house. They're not going to pay just 15. They're going to cover the difference on him and I. It's going to be your businesses. And when the business taxes go up, guess who pays it? The end user that visited that business. Because that $2 hamburger is now going to be $3 to cover the expense of the additional taxes. And any new homeowner who's just purchased a house that's not homesteaded, they're going to get killed on ad valorem taxes. So when we look at this, it's not 45% of the people are covering the taxes. It's an overall taxable value. It's not people, so it's not 45 people cover the entire ad valorem tax of 100. It's the percentage of taxable value that we are able to tax, is what it comes down to. So when I look at the budgets, in 2021, we had $24 million in undesignated reserves. That means that was money from previous years that was not spent, that was swept from one year to the next. Last year, we were in a thing where we were going to be, oh man, we're going to be bankrupt, we're going to be zero. And how much money did we end up sweeping into this fiscal year? Another $12 million. So we keep crying poverty, but we keep sweeping money over and over, and we're not talking nickels and pennies, we're talking millions of dollars. So I'll leave that there. And then my last comment is going to be on, we keep saying we set the maximum millage rate back on July 18th of 7.4955. Unfortunately, the rollback rate was 6.8, and it takes a 5 vote to get anything over rollback, so we never set anything on July 18th.
Commissioner Sosa, if you call the Department of Revenue, the 5 votes for the millage is not required until September. In fact, the Department of Revenue said that for the purpose of the trim notice, it can actually be a consensus vote, not even a voice vote. But the problem you have is staff has to prepare the budget for September. And if we do not have a belief that there is any possibility of achieving 5 votes come September, then we have to prepare a budget at rollback or whatever is agreed to. If we are unable to get 5 votes on any millage tonight, then we would have to produce a budget based on rollback, because we have no guarantees that we can achieve 5 votes in September. The reality is, if we go to the first budget hearing in September and we are unable to achieve 5 votes to go higher than rollback, we would have to try to produce a budget in a week, because we have to put the next agenda item out the week before the meeting, which gives us 1 week to complete an entire budget, which is not possible. So that's why, from a administration standpoint, we have to have a level of confidence that a millage rate can achieve 5 votes come September. As I told you all last week, we need a millage rate tonight that has 5 votes in order to be able to finalize the budget. And while I had the floor, I'd just like to address one thing. Commissioner King, I heard what you said, but I think something very important to realize. The $3 million from the Sheriff's Department equates to 0.84 mils. So, we need to remember that $3 million is $3 million, but $3 million is also 0.84 mils above what we're doing now. And so that's why we're having this crisis situation in large part. It's because of that. And I just wanted to put that out there, because I think when people hear what that $3 million equates to in millage, you have a better appreciation. Taking on what Mr. Bryant said about, right now, fire and police, sheriff's department essentially at the ad valorem rate. When the $3 million goes into effect, it'll be significantly more than what the ad valorem brings in. Thank you.
Okay. Now, out of all those increased revenues from the water department due to late payments, how many of those people who paid their water bill late, was it because they forgot about it or they just couldn't afford it? Do we have any kind of data on that?
Sir, there were 2 factors. The primary factor, if you remember the year before last, we allowed people not to pay their water bills because of the COVID situation. We had people who literally went 9 months without paying a water bill. And when it came time to pay the water bill, majority of them went into a payment plan. And the payment plan was a lot more than what a regular water bill would be. So, they didn't anticipate that. They weren't able to pay, things of that nature. All that attributed to the fact that we had a higher than normal people that were late. We have had a significant number of turnoffs this year. That means people were 2 months late. But the fact that we allowed people not to pay during COVID, and they came out of that with a payment plan where they had to pay back the debt in 12 months. So if you were 9 months behind, then you were essentially paying 1.75 times what your original bill would have been. And so people that were in financial hardship, that's a tough road to hoe.
Okay. Do you have a percentage of how many folks that did not fall under that category, say in the last 6 months, that just haven't been able to pay their water bill on time? Do you have that kind of data?
I have not seen it. Let me put it that way. I can tell you how many people were on a payment plan, but I'm not sure that we readily have access to who was on a payment plan and were late. So that would be a difficult number to get for you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate that. I'm going to see your county taking money from us, and I'm going to raise you a state taking money from us. How about that? Let's talk about where that money is really disappearing to, if we want to talk about that in terms of the county taking money from us. State taking money from us also. When we talk about a referendum for the first responders, teachers, military, well-deserved, well-deserved, after what they have sacrificed for our community and for our country. But let me tell you what our great governor is also doing. There are new boosts in pays for teacher, fire, and police. When we're talking about picking on the middleman, they're getting raises also. You know who's not getting raises? The people that the almost $4 billion, okay, that was vetoed by that very same governor, okay, for services that people need, that depend on why people are broke, medical care, things like that, that wasn't mentioned. So that was taken, $4 billion. So let's talk about why people don't have money also. We're going to talk about what he's done to the housing trust. When we talk about people paying for rent, you know why they can't afford rent? Because they can't get into a house. You know why they can't get into a house? Because there are financial barriers that they can't overcome. So we're not helping them. That's part of the $4 billion that was taken to get people into housing. We talk about the descending lost revenue. We go to roll back and we're never going to recapture that money. It's gone. It's gone. You don't ever recapture it. There's a whole thing on that. Go back and read it. It's in our paperwork. Listen, it's cyclic here. It is cyclic here. If you want to talk about us having that much money in reserve also, this governor also has a record-setting $2 billion in reserves. So it's not like it's a foreign concept to have money in reserves. You know, we are talking here about a deficit that we have and revenue-generating opportunities. We're trying as a city to do this, and this is nobody's fault. And we're killing one another going back and forth, like trying to paint someone as a bad guy for us trying to get our city to exist and to live. Revenue neutral budget, when we're talking about that, it's been presented to us. It's uncomfortable for anybody to pay this. I'm not for anybody paying the taxes that we're call it what way you want to call it. But it's a necessity and it's a reality because we did kick projects down the road. They're going to cost us more now in CIP than what it would have if they'd have done it back then because somebody didn't want to be the bad guy. Let's talk about that. And the buck stops here with this commission. This is a solid commission doing things that we have been kicked down the road and we're held at task for. We're not the bad guy. Nobody wants to spend somebody else's money. We're trying to make sure that we have protection. But when you talk about what our public protection costs, it costs what it costs. As far as the millage goes. So if we're going to throw numbers around, let's throw all of those numbers around. Nobody wants to pay more, but this is what the reality of what it is.
Vice Mayor, Commissioner Bradford, and then we're going to wrap this up because everyone has had more than ample time to speak, so, and some haven't spoken, so. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a question. Mr. Peters, if I'm looking at the 5-year fund balance, if we stay at the millage rate that we are currently on, we have to cut 13 positions here in the city. Am I correct? Is that what this says? It's on your 5-year.
Vice Mayor, yes. In the example of what it would take to have a zero fund balance after 5 years, which means we're in deficit spending every year. To achieve that zero fund balance after 5 years, we would have to cut 13 positions during that time.
13 positions. And if we go to the non-deficit spending position cuts, staying at the rate that we are currently on, we have to cut 83 positions. That would be 83 staff members of the city of Deltona that's going to be in a worse hold than what everybody else here is talking about. Am I correct?
Yes,
They'll be out of work, out of your job, out of employment, out of medical insurance, 0% income for these 83 staff members that we will be cutting, or the 13 staff members that we will be cutting if we stay with the current millage rate.
Yes, ma'am, and let me take this opportunity. Of our non-fired employees, 61% live in the city. So when you're taking those positions away, those are actually, in large part, residents of this city also. They're not just employees, but they are also the same people that we are concerned about raising their taxes. And in this particular example, we would actually be taking their livelihood away for at least a short period of time.
So instead of trying to resolve the problems, we're just going to be adding more to the problem because these people, our staff, people that work for the city of Deltona, who live in the city of Deltona, will be without a job.
Conceivably.
And that's even staying at the millage rate that we are currently on. Am I correct?
7.85, yes, ma'am.
So let's think about that too, folks. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradford?
Okay, so, and then I'll make a motion. So what you're saying is we're going to have to cut 83 positions if we go down, right? So here's my question. What was our increase from 21 to the 22 budget? How much? How much are we increasing our 21 to our 22 budget?
$3 million.
7.85?
All right, let me rephrase it. How much did we increase our budget? Let me rephrase that. From 21 to 22 budget, I'm sorry. Our 2021 budget to our 21-22 budget. What was the difference?
In 21-22 budget at 7.85, we projected to bring in 24.9 million. In the 22-23 budget at 7.85, we're projected to bring 29.23 million. What is important to note is with the $24.9 million revenue in 21-22, we are showing a reduction in the fund balance from 22.6 million down to 15.8 million. So even at the current 7.85, we are in a $6.8 million deficit.
All right, I'm not there yet. Now, the 2021 budget, I wanted to compare 2021 budget to what we brought in this year. Now, you said we were budgeted 24.9 million, but what was our actual? Was the actual 24.9 million? Is that what we brought in? And then 2021, what was the difference?
We brought in $21,740,000.
Thank you, $21,741,000. Okay. So our budget from 2021 was $21,741,000 to 21-22, $24.9 million. Okay. If this to me is like, okay, so why didn't we have to cut then? Why did we add these positions?
Can I answer that? In my mind? Because, all right, I'm looking at our budget books here. $21,740,000 was 2021. 2022 budgeted $24,923, which comes out to about $3 million. And it's the same thing when you look at our budget. This sticking at 7.85 for next year's budget, it's $3 million. So the reason we didn't is because last year we got a rebate from the Sheriff's Department. This year we don't have an increase. Next year the county is eating a portion of it, the increase, and the following year we're getting hit with $3 million. So we didn't have that Sheriff's Department increase. We actually got a rebate because it became Amendment 10 and the sheriff didn't charge us for some of the administrative fees. That is why we had the extra funding, and we didn't have a $3 million increase hanging over our heads when this was done. This just came to light for next year, not for this year. So we had the fund balance, and also remember that we, at that time, got American Rescue money, and we got other money to pay that we're using, the $11 million that we're using now from the federal government to pay for the water meters. So we also got American Rescue funding, and we used that when dollars changed as to what we could use it for. Initially, it was all for COVID-related, et cetera, et cetera. People were using it for sanitation and so forth. Then it became allowable to use it for public safety. And so we took that money, the $2.5 million, and we did like every other city in Volusia County and paid public safety with it. We paid our fire department. So then you had that added bonus of funding, for want of a better word. And that helped equalize things. And now the $11 million that we're getting coming from the American Rescue Plan is going to pay for the water meters that we were going to have to do over time. So that's in Deltona Water. That's a separate fund because that's an approved thing. Does that help? Is that?
Absolutely not, because the whole point is this. In 2021, we had 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to 24.9 million, we increased. When we set that budget of $24.9 million at 7.85, we didn't know we were getting a $800,000 discount from the sheriff. And actually this year, according to the sheriff, we overpaid $2 million, which I understand he's keeping. So it doesn't make sense to me. If 24.9 million that we brought in this year is like, oh my gosh, the deficit, we should have froze positions. We shouldn't have hired all these extra positions if it was the case. It doesn't make sense to me. I'd like to make a move. I move to approve resolution number 2022-30, adopting the proposed millage rate of 7.4955 for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 22-23. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of Scrivener errors and the like.
Properly moved by Commissioner Bradford, seconded by Commissioner King. So we have no more speakers on the list. We have public comment has been done. So there's a motion for 7.49. So since I did not get to speak, aside from trying to answer what you wanted to talk about, Commissioner Bradford, I just want to make a couple comments looking at the numbers here. Just as I said before, when you look at the increase, we've probably brought in about $3 million more in ad valorem revenue the last few years, every year. So this year alone, we are having to spend $710,000. First of all, $650,000 is an updated retirement contribution to the Florida retirement system. That's out of our hands. So right now, in this budget is an additional $650,000 that we're having to pay into FRS. We've also budgeted an extra $60,800 for increased fuel costs. So basically, right now, we're at $710,000 more in unexpected expenditures than when we started out. So there's $700,000 right now that we have to make up for this coming budget that we don't have a chance. We don't have a choice. All these other things, the additional employees, all this kind of stuff that's here, all that extra money, I'm not in favor of any of those additional employees right now. We can't do that. So those are irrelevant, but if you look at that, so right now we have to budget $700,000 in addition to what we budgeted for. So that's the increase there. This year, we won't have the increase in the Sheriff's Department, but we will next year. So the additional $3 million that we have coming in this year, hopefully if everything stays on target, you're going to take $700,000 off. So you'll have $2.3 million. The following year, you're going to have a $3 million increase for the Sheriff's Department and whatever other increase you're going to have. So those $2.3 million that we're going to get in extra this year need to be banked. Or we have to start taking those extra $3 million a year for the sheriff's contract. That's the only thing we can bank on right now. If that goes the way it is, we have to take that. We either have to make that money and bring it in, take it out of reserves, or cut to pay it. It's just like your home. It's just like your home. If you've got an added expense of X amount of dollars a year, you have to budget for that. So you either work more and get more money, or you cut. Because there's certain things we cannot stop. And we have to stick with public safety across the board. You also have $2.8 million budgeted for an additional fire station. And we don't need that right away, but that budget has to be budgeted out for the next few years, like all capital projects. So that money has to be there. If we add 6 firefighters, sir, what is the cost per year for the 6 firefighters? Just 6 personnel and firefighters that we would have to budget for, because if we get another fire station, you're going to have to add firefighters no matter what.
The firefighters on average are 96,700, so 6 firefighters would be 600,000 minus 18,000, so roughly 585,000.
Just say 500,000, an additional $500,000 that you have to budget for 6 additional employees. So then you either have to cut in one way, or you're going to have to figure out how you're going to bring that money in. And hopefully we don't have a recession. Hopefully we stay steady with growth. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, we also have a moratorium on single-family residential plan unit developments. So that moratorium is in place until at least January with the option of extension for 3 more months. So that means any of that new revenue that you think you might get for subdivisions, not so much if that moratorium stays in place. So all those things factor into the economic growth. So we have a motion and a second for the 7.4955 millage rate. And it's a resolution, so we don't have to read anything. Ms. Joyce, if you will please read the motion one more time, and then we'll have a vote.
Motion reads, I move to approve resolution number 2022-30, adopting the proposed millage rate of 7.4955 for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022-23. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener's errors and the like.
Okay, may we vote, please? Nothing? Do.
2 in favor, 5 against. The 2 in favor were Commissioner Bradford and Commissioner King. Everybody else was against.
So the motion fails.
Correct.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you either do another motion or we go to rollback. Take your pick. No one wants to make?
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
I would, I'm sorry, I'm stalling so I can get back
Commissioner
over.
McCool, can somebody get that off of there so we can see the vote when we do this again? Is there a possibility to get that off the screen? Thank you.
There we go. Yeah.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2022-30, adopting the proposed millage rate of 7.85 for the levy of ad valorem taxes for FY 2022-2023. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener's errors and the like.
Second.
Properly moved by Commissioner McCool, seconded by Commissioner Ramos. Please reread the motion, Joyce, so we're correct in knowing what we're voting on.
Motion reads, I move to approve resolution number 2022-30, adopting the proposed millage rate of 7.85 for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022-2023. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener's errors and the like.
Thank you, ma'am. May we vote, please? And the motion fails. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll entertain one more motion for another millage rate, or we fall to rollback. Vice Mayor, I am going to pass you the gavel, and I'm going to make a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Commissioner Bradford, you were on the board. Don't listen to me. I'm sorry. Vice Mayor, give me the gavel back. Just kidding.
Madam Mayor? May I?
Yes, Commissioner Bradford?
Okay. Madam Mayor, I move to approve Resolution Number 2022-30, adopting the proposed millage rate of 7.65 for the levy of ad valorem taxes for FY 2022-2023. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of Scrivener's error and the like.
We have a motion for 7.65 on the floor. Is there a second? I will second that. Joyce, please read the motion. Commissioner Bradford, did you want to speak on this?
How much is 7.65? You said .84 mils is 3 million? So can you please tell me what the 7.65 would be?
Can you repeat the question?
What does 7.65 equate to in income? I'm trying to see if we have this anywhere in any.
I don't see it on any of the reports.
No, they're calculating, I think.
According to my numbers here, every tenth of a mil equates to $357,082 in revenue.
So 700,000?
So at 3.65, it would be about $714,000 less than 7.85.
Guys, listen, splitting it down the middle, I'm just saying here, nobody's going to walk away 100% happy. Nobody's going to walk away from here 100% sad either. And we're protecting the interest of everybody concerned here. Everybody just wants to do the right thing here. Just seriously.
Okay, are
Call
we
for
good?
vote.
Commissioner Bradford, you okay with the number, whatever he threw out?
Yeah, I was just wanting to know
Okay.
what it was going to be.
So $714,000 less than 785. And, yep, maybe, you read the motion, right?
No, I'm going to read it.
Yes.
Please. Motion reads, I move to approve resolution number 2022-30, adopting the proposed millage rate of 7.65 for the levy of ad valorem taxes for fiscal year 2022-2023. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of Scrivener's errors and the like.
Okay, may we vote, please?
Who didn't vote?
Somebody didn't vote. Commissioner Bradford? Oh, here she is. She's got, hold on. Are we going to redo the vote? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, vote one more time. And the motion passes 5-2 for 7.65.
Now, we can reduce this
Yes.
at the in the September meeting, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
and you can reduce it, and right now, Mr. Peters and staff present a budget for 7.65, and please present a budget for rollback as well. You're going to have to do it, because you need 5 votes. Am I right?
Oh, and I'm not promising that's a vote. This was just
No, that's what I'm saying.
I want to see.
No. He has to
This is
provide
just saying,
something
I want to
less.
see.
He has to provide something. He has to also provide, if you don't get 5 votes for 7.65, I want a list of what we are cutting. Let's be realistic, people. We got to cut.
Madam Mayor, can I ask for consensus on that? I don't disagree with you, but just to make it
No,
official,
I mean,
can
yeah.
I ask for consensus?
Yes.
A list of what we are going to cut.
Madam Mayor, I would like a line item so we can kind of go through it. Every year we get that line item report. We've never not had a line item report. And also.
On what we want to cut?
On the whole budget. I mean, we need to be looking at what we're doing, not just, hey, this is being cut and this is being cut. We need to go back to the book. We usually get a book that tells us what's in there so we can go over it.
Ms. Bradford, let me remind you, we had a line item budget that you all spent an entire day going through. We will
And
have
you've
two of
changed
them.
it. And you've changed it. So if
I
we're going to
understand.
change it, I want to see what the new line item is. So you can present something to me, and since it wasn't approved at that time, I mean, have you guys sitting up here, Mayor, have you never got a line item when we go through that budget?
We usually do that.
Yes, we do.
We did it once already. We did that the whole Saturday workshop. So you would like to have it with this budget, a line item for this budget?
Yeah, I'm not saying we have to have a meeting, but I want to look at and see, or give me a notation on the new budget of what you've changed. Because I'm sure from that budget, from when we looked at it, I've never had a process like this. I'm just going to say, this is ridiculous. For me to sit up here and say I want a line item and be questioned by everybody on why I want to see what we're actually putting in budget, I am just floored.
But that will be presented to us. It will be the current budget as is with the cuts. Am I right? It's finance?
But that is a line item. That's what we usually get. That's what I'm saying. So we usually
Right.
get handed the book.
It will be the line item budget, but it will also be a sheet showing what was
Correct.
cut.
That's all I'm
The
asking for.
same budget we have and showing what was
Right,
cut.
I want to see that. And I also would like to know, because we're talking about increasing 640,000, and I've done some research as well, and in order for us to be like, oh my God, we need to freak out on the firefighter pension, every firefighter needs to retire at the same time, and their families, and pretty much everybody at the same time, in order for us to be like in that oh my God stage. So realistically, I think we need to pay the pension down, but does it need to be $600,000 a year?
Can't afford
I don't
it.
think so.
Can't afford it.
Commissioner Bradford, with all due respect, you need to understand how voluminous this budget is, and you're putting a very unreasonable expectation on this staff to put the budget together in this short period of time, okay? So yes, you will get a budget. We will prepare two for you, but it's unrealistic for you to expect a line item budget with changes for each one. We have a small staff, which you want to cut, which is fine if you want a smaller government. I understand that. But you can't put unrealistic expectations on this staff. So we will do our best to give you what you want. If you want a line item, but don't expect a pre and post with every single change. You already saw the line item, and the commission added money back to it.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You want me to take the line item budget we had, and then you guys are getting me a list of the changes, correct? And then I'll take off from my job, and I'll go through it and figure out what was cut from the budget and changed.
We will do our best to give you a concise budget.
I mean, the last time it was just a report. I mean, it wasn't nothing crazy. And I'm sorry if it seems that way. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here as well. And I'm not trying, Mary, to put anything hardship on you guys, but like they're saying is, you know, we went over this budget and then it changed, and now I can't just give a blanket approval. And that's where I'm at. So if you guys expect me to sit up here and say, okay, great, I approve, I'm going to tell you right now it's going to be no.
Thanks for your comments.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
To reemphasize what Ms. Lyson just said, I want to put something in perspective here. As I referred to earlier, the Sheriff's Department change is the equivalent of 0.84 mil. If you take 0.84 mil off of this 7.85, that makes it 7.01. So we are going, you know, previously we were looking at 7.4955. we're going to have dramatic cuts, things way beyond what you all were looking at during the June line-by-line item review. That's at 7.65. It's going to be dramatic cuts. And then even more dramatic cuts in order to, I'm assuming you're talking about adjusted rollback, not rollback, because it's two different numbers. The adjusted rollback is 7.23. There's going to be dramatic cuts, and it's going to take some time. That's why Ms. Lyson rightfully expressed her concerns about the volume of work that it's going to create. We're going to have to sit down department by department and look at the budgets at what can be cut while keeping some semblance of an operation going. And we may not be doing cuts according to attrition. We may have to, make actual cuts. I can tell you right now that we will probably be implementing a hiring freeze, except for those absolutely critical positions, because there's no point us hiring positions that in all likelihood will be cut out. And so I just want to make that aware, you are aware of that. But we will do our level best to create a line item budget for the two rates that you all have set. But I'm just telling you to expect some very dramatic changes in the budget. Thank you.
Commissioner Sosa, did you have a question on this?
Okay. All this is predicated on the sheriff's study of increasing $3.1 million, which you keep pointing out as 0.84 mils. So if we were at rollback and we put that 0.84, that's well over what you were asking for at a 7.85. Now, you keep saying that we're getting a $3.1 million increase from a study. Have you seen the study? Have you negotiated with the sheriff yet? What exactly is it that the $3.1 million increase is going to cover?
Commissioner Sosa, let me remind you, at the last meeting, we had in the agenda package the entire study by canopy. It was at the back of the package. So you all have had this. We have looked at it. I hope you all have looked at it. That was provided. So I just want to make that apparent to everybody that we have provided that information. We were not included in those decisions. This is a discussion that happened between the county and the sheriff's department back at the beginning of June. In no way, shape, or form were we involved in that discussion. So we're having to come in after the fact. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Item 8A, request approval to piggyback the contract agreement between the City of Jacksonville Beach and Advanced Environment Laboratories for environmental sampling and analytical laboratory services for a 5-year term. Mr. Danskin, are you still here? Any questions, commissioners, if you have any questions on this?
Nope.
Has anyone in the public signed up to talk on this item, Liz?
No, Mayor.
Then we'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. Commissioners, do you have any questions on this piggyback?
Nope.
I don't see any. Then we need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Stop. You can make a motion. Make a motion. Go ahead. I'm sorry. He can't. I want to make sure that we all have that we're all okay to click in, because I apologize. There's no one on the board. Go ahead and make your motion. And did anybody try to click in? I'm back. You're back? Okay, go ahead, Vice Mayor. Please click your button. Do.
I move to approve the piggyback contract agreement between the City of Jacksonville Beach and Advanced Environmental Laboratories for the environment sampling and analytical laboratory services for a term of 5 years. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener's errors and the like.
Second.
Properly moved by Vice Mayor Avila Vasquez, seconded by Commissioner Ramos. This is a resolution, so we only need the motion read back, and then may we vote, please.
Motion reads, I move to approve the piggyback contract agreement between the City of Jacksonville Beach and Advanced Environmental Laboratories for environmental sampling and analytical laboratory services for a term of 5 years. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of scrivener's errors and the like.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 8B, contract bid number 22041, approval to award bid to Samsula Demolition to provide demolition services as needed. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Paradise on this item? Did anyone from the public sign up? We'll close the public comment on this item. Commissioners, no comments. I need a motion, please.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve Samsula demolition contract at first reading on this date of July 18th, 2022.
Properly moved by Commissioner McCool, seconded by Commissioner Bradford. Please reread the motion, and may we vote, please?
Motion reads, I move to approve Samsula demolition contract at first reading on this date of July 18th, 2022. Is that the right date? Ron, is that the right date?
No.
It's not. It should be, I move to approve Samsula demolition contract at first reading on this date of August 1, 2022.
Yes.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, you correct. Commissioner
Yes,
Bradford, okay
thank
with
you.
the correction? Okay. Good. May we vote, please? Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, C, to approve resolution number 2022-29 to include the budget amendment to fund the reimbursement of real property and tangible property taxes pursuant to the Economic Development Agreement with Amazon.com Services, LLC for $770,000. Commissioners, any questions for Mary Lyson? And has anyone in the public signed up for this item?
No, Mayor.
And we'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. No questions. We need a motion, please.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2022-29 to include the budget amendment to reimburse Amazon for real and tangible taxes paid to the city of Deltona.
Second.
Properly moved by Commissioner McCool, seconded by Commissioner Ramos. Please reread the motion and let us vote, please. Can you take yourself off?
Motion reads, I move to approve resolution number 2022-29 to include the budget amendment to reimburse Amazon for real and tangible taxes paid to the city of Deltona.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion passes 7-0. Item D, to approve resolution number 2022-28 to include the budget amendments and increase the budget for legal fees in the general fund, stormwater, solid waste, and Deltona water funds for a sum of $360,000. Commissioners, I have Commissioner McCool and Commissioner Sosa. Please indicate if you are not supposed to be on the board.
Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be on the board.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. I would like to talk about this because we have a lot of talk about legal fees. I requested some numbers myself regarding the overage and the legal fees, and was quite shocked to find out how much we pay for just some services when I broke it down by, you know, things like public records requests and how much it cost to do some of these things. I also talked to, and I would like to ask Mr. Peters to clarify, because we talked about a pass-through on some of these larger projects that we have had, because my concern was that the legal budget had gone up and that will continue to go up. And wanted to clarify. So if you could please clarify regarding the pass-through that we discussed to mitigate those fees to make us neutral again as far as what our contract says, because I had serious concerns about that. So could you answer that, please, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I would just kind of paraphrase our conversation that we had. I have already asked to put together an ordinance to have a pass-through for developers. Right now, if we had a bunch of development projects come in our city attorney's office is working on a development agreement, an impact fee credit project with it, and other elements that go with a rezoning or a site plan review or a commercial development. The citizens of Deltona pay that cost.
Yep.
As I have said many times before, when they're, well, let me just say, I used to have a sign in my office years ago that said, if the developer creates a need, the developer pays for it. Similar here, if the developer creates a need for our legal services, they should be paying for it. So the pass-through ordinance puts a process in place where a development X creates $50,000 worth of legal fees to the city. The developer of that property would pay the $50,000, not the residents of Deltona. The second thing that we're going to change going forward is that when we, in the middle of the year, decided we're going to do a residential moratorium, we will handle it like a change order to a consultant, to where when we talk about a moratorium, part of the commission report will be, we are hereby moving forward with a residential moratorium, and we are setting aside $125,000 for legal costs. So that way, every time we add something more legal, there'll be a change order, and we all understand what that cost is. Between those two elements alone, we would have avoided what we're having here. We've had a lot of development this last year, contentious rezonings. We had a moratorium. We were talking about a fire fee. And there's something else that gone out of my head, but there were several things that we did not anticipate when we started the budget year on October 1st. And we're seeing the results of it. I apologize because I wish I had used my prior, which is when we did Hickory Oaks and we knew there was going to be a lawsuit. I came to the commission and we set aside money for our portion of legal costs resulting from Hickory Oaks. Fortunately, we have not had to pay much out of it. I wish I had followed that trend this year, and for that I plead guilty. Because if I had, I would have said the moratorium, we need to set aside this much. And we could have avoided some of this, but those are the two things that we're proceeding with. Marcia is almost finished with the pass-through ordinance, so we'll be bringing that forward quickly so that it's in place before October 1 so that we can avoid this situation next year.
Right, and just for transparency's sake for this year, because we've not anticipated that over prior years also, as far as those costs that could have been liberated through pass-through. So I want to understand what that is, you know, just at some juncture in the next month when you, in your spare time, not like, you know, when you come in the office on Sundays.
Well, let me just say this, just a quick review of several months of bills. Now, this is just a small sampling. It appears that the pass-through ordinance would be somewhere between 30 and 40% of the total bill.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure, again, I know that discussing this with my concern that we were like here with our legal fees, understanding too that our legal fee is not a flat fee contract. So we didn't agree on this many hours, but it is per hour, and that they're documented. And you would be shocked if you asked to do a PRR for what the hours are spent on and some of the stuff. I'm just telling you, you will be amazed that some of the stuff that we have to spend legal fees on. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Thank you for clarifying, sir.
Madam Mayor, I forgot the one other thing that Commissioner McCool and I spoke of, and that is the need for the attorney contract to actually come to the commission for approval. The attorney works for the commission, not me, and so it's appropriate that you all are approving the contract, not me.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sosa?
Okay. We had budgeted almost $750,000 for the attorney for this fiscal year, which is about $250,000 more than the last fiscal year. Has all of that been exhausted at this point?
Yes.
Very close.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far, as of July 5th, it's about $725,000 has been spent on legal fees. So this is just the change orders to get them to the rest of the fiscal year based on the trend.
Mr. Sosa, I'd like to point out one other thing. 2 years ago, the attorney's hourly rate was $175 an hour. The following year, I think through an error, it was reduced to 157, which happens to be a transposing of 175, and then this year with 215. So a comparison of last year versus this year is skewed by the fact that the hourly rate is grossly different.
Okay. Now, I know we should be getting a breakdown monthly of what our legal team is doing, what they're spending hours on, what project, and how much money we're spending. This year, I've gotten 0 reports.
We get a breakdown every month in the bills.
We used to get that as a commission. I've seen 0. So I'd like to know a breakdown of exactly where all this money went. I mean, did we put it on a food truck ordinance? How much did we spend on that? How much did we spend on Z? How much did we spend on everything? I'd like a cost analysis of that, because when I look at it, most of our legal fees, when we have something that goes to ADA, we hire an outside legal firm. We've got something with the fire pension, we hire an outside legal firm. We've got something with HR, we hire an outside legal firm on top of what we're paying. My question is, how much money have we spent in legal fees this year on top of the base salary?
So I'll be happy to get you the information on the outside attorneys, and I think it's appropriate for you all to ask the city attorney for the breakdown on the billing for this year.
No, Mr. Fowler, consider that a request for me to ask for a breakdown.
Commissioner, every month we send a very detailed billing in tenths of hours identifying where the time was spent. I thought you were receiving these, but apparently not. So I have absolutely no objection you're taking a look at them.
All right, thank you.
They're here.
Okay. Now, I also have, you brought up Hickory Oaks and the $200,000 we set aside for Hickory Oaks. How much money have we spent out of that Hickory Oaks fund and on what?
First of all, I believe what we set aside was 150, but I'll double check that. We had not spent much at all on that one because the developer is paying for an outside attorney themselves. It was not something we were totally confident would happen. And so therefore our cost is more to coordinate with the outside attorney being paid for by the developer.
Okay. And how much have we paid out of that?
I just said I don't have any exact number, but I'll get it for you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the commission? Seeing none? I'm sorry, no, go ahead, ma'am.
Sorry, they went off. Mr. Peters, when is this ordinance going to be ready? When is it going to be starting? More or less.
My understanding that we should have it certainly by the first meeting in September, if not before.
And it'll come to approval and then it'll go into effect?
An ordinance requires 2 votes, so the intention is to have it done before October 1.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any member from the public that signed up to speak on this?
Yes. Richard Bellick, please.
Those legal fees, that sounds very shady to me. Nobody has a number. I mean, Mr. Sosa said they set 200,000 aside. Mr. Peters said 150. All right, now that just goes by the wayside. Okay, now you talk. I said about 2 weeks ago that his legal fees were over $1 million a year, and I was laughed at. I don't know if you remember that, but being laughed at doesn't bother me at all, Lauren. I mean, really, it's part of the game. But, I mean, this has to be looked at, and it has to be stopped now. This is a runaway train right here, this attorney. Come on, yous know it. Yous don't want to do nothing. Yous got to take a stand. Go out and research for an attorney. Put out a search for an attorney. Why do you have to go through this? Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, it's the same thing. Now, he's telling him that he sent the stuff to him. He didn't know he wasn't getting it. Come on. For his type of salary, he should be making sure that you get it. I mean, this is not a game. This is the taxpayers' money. You're supposed to be stewards of these people's money. And you're not. And it's time after time. And I don't want to come up here and embarrass you, but you are looking like an embarrassment. You don't know nothing. There's no figures. Come on. When does this stop? This has been going on for years, Heidi. You know that. It's got to stop, and something should be done tonight about it. You don't just let it pass by, or you don't sit there like that guy like this, or you don't go like her back and forth. You do something. You're supposed to guard these people's money. When are you going to do it? You talk about thousands and millions like it's peanuts. And then you talk about taxes, and then you look to squeeze whatever few dollars you can out of the public. It's got to stop. I made a thing the other day. I said, people pay $5 to go see a comedy club in a $10 million building. So I said, why waste the $5? Go to City Hall. There's a bunch of more comedians, and it don't cost you nothing.
Thank you, sir.
That closes, Mayor.
That closes the public comment portion of the hearing. So we have had our comments, and now we need a motion. Before we do that, I just want to make a comment on this. So this year, the other thing you forgot, Mr. Peters, was the amount of time spent on the rental ordinance. And as Commissioner Sosa indicated, the food truck ordinance. And the amount of time the attorney goes to the special magistrate hearings and the Planning and Zoning Board and other meetings that have to have. So if you looked at the $750,000 at $210 an hour, it's about 3,571 hours is what we're about paying for. That's not even like 2 full-time people. If you look on an average of a 40-hour week times 52 weeks, you're looking at like, what, 2,080 hours. So the 3,571 hours that we're looking at doesn't equate to 2 full-time people when you look at it by the hour, when you break it down, if my math is correct. I apologize if it's not. But unfortunately, for every municipality, legal tends to be one of the highest expenses after public safety due to the fact that everything that we do up here and everything that we say has to be vetted through legal, because there's always a lawsuit around the corner. There's always a lawsuit around the corner. And the last thing that you want to do is pass an ordinance or a resolution or do something that's going to get you sued, because that will cost you even more time and money. And we are doing a lot of things, including the ADA upgrades. All of that requires legal oversight. Every single ordinance, every development, every single thing we do, for the most part, has to be run by legal. And then when we do something and put time and effort into it, like the fire fee, and then the commission decides not to go forward with that, which is fine, either way you look at it, you spent all that time and all that effort having every staff member go over everything, and then we don't do anything with it. And then it falls by the wayside. And you don't recoup any of that funding. So I think, Mr. Peters, what you're bringing forward is a much more clear and transparent way to do that. And my question for you is, have we ever done that in the past, aside from Hampton Oaks? Does anyone, have we ever done anything in all the years that we've been a city, have we ever had that type of a situation in the past where we have done a pass-through? Or formalized it in a resolution or an ordinance?
It's my understanding we have never had a pass-through in this city.
And that's part of the problem. It's part of the problem that over time we've not asked for what we should have from developers. We've not asked what we should have from other entities. And we've eaten a lot of it. I can't do it anymore. So thank you for bringing that forward. And Commissioner Bradford?
Just a quick question. Why aren't a lot of these being handled by our insurance? I mean, if we have insurance, like the legal fees, so we got legal fees for the general fund, stormwater, solid waste, Deltona water. Give me an example like Deltona water, what's the legal fees going to cover?
For instance, as I indicated a few minutes ago, we have probably done 3 or 4 impact fee credit projects where the developer puts in a sewer line that goes to their property that will serve future developments. And it is much more cost effective to us to enter into an impact fee credit project with the developer. Each one of those agreements requires legal time to review it, and in some cases draft it for unique circumstances.
So, and again, to reiterate, none of these legal fees are like, and I think that's when you say legal fees, people are automatically thinking of like the city being sued for something. When the city's being sued for an item, that is being turned over appropriately to our insurance company, and our insurance company is handling that, correct? So much. I mean, obviously, you know, Skip, you guys have a few items that you have to cover and go over, but for the majority, I mean, let's say we take $1 million. I mean, we're looking at 4,651 hours at $215 an hour, okay? Sounds like a lot, but we'll divide it down farther. So how much of this is any of these fees have to do with anything to do with any part of any lawsuits that I have just described?
There is a small portion of it that involves lawsuit where our attorneys are coordinating with the attorney from the insurance company with regard. Sometimes there's some question as to whether information being requested by the other side is exempt under state law. So that's an example where we would involve our attorney for interpretations. Also, because it's legal matters, and quite honestly, the attorney for the insurance company is representing the insurance company, not the city. Hate to say it that way, but it's the fact. So for us as a city staff to feel like we have representation, we quite often will lean on our attorneys as to advice as the best way to proceed. We have had a number of those discussions on an existing lawsuit that's going on where, you know, I personally have some issues with the insurance attorney's interpretation of things, and, you know, I just want to get clarification. And, you know, we have had some profound differences of opinion, but those are instances where they would be involved in a lawsuit that is being handled by the insurance company. We have had, as Commissioner McCool indicated, we have had voluminous records requests, and sometimes we have to look at state statute to see what may be exempt. We have a situation where one of those people, habitual records requesters, has made a complaint to HUD, and in fact, I'm having a deposition with HUD this week regarding that person. So obviously, our attorneys are involved in preparing us for that deposition. So those are examples of things that we had no idea would come up during the year. They happen, and so that's what makes it difficult in terms of putting a budget together for attorneys, because you just never know any given year what issues are going to come up.
And Mr. P, I'm sorry, Madam Commissioner, to that point also, one person that I'm talking about, $8,000 in 1 month in legal for this very person that threatened me, like, you know what I mean, my stalker. $8,000 1 month. So
what we're saying is we're basically at the 4,651 hours, let's say roughly, which equates to 116 weeks. So basically, we're getting almost two and a quarter employees working full 40-hour weeks.
That is correct, and also remember, we have a paralegal that's on staff, so there's also that person's time.
So the paralegal falls into the paralegal doesn't fall into his fees, though?
No, the paralegal falls under the city manager's contract.
That's
I mean,
correct.
city manager's office.
Okay.
Okay. You good, Commissioner Bradford? All right, we
Yes,
need a motion then for this resolution.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2022-28 to include the budget amendments and increase the budget for legal fees in the general funds, stormwater, solid waste, and Deltona water funds.
Second.
Okay, properly moved by Commissioners McCool, seconded by Vice Mayor Villavasquez. Would you please read the motion again, and may we vote, please?
Motion reads, I move to approve resolution number 2022-28 to include the budget amendments and increase the budget for legal fees in the general fund, stormwater, solid waste, and Deltona water funds.
Motion passes 6-1 with Commissioner Sosa dissenting. Next item is item E, MetLife Insurance Policy of Edwin and York for Veterans Memorial Park. Mr. Peters, this is the gentleman that left the allocation to the Veterans Park, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so Commissioners, is there anyone from the public that signed up to speak on this, Liz?
Mayor.
And we'll close the public comment portion of this hearing. We need a motion to approve.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve MetLife claim funds in the amount of $1,679.35 be allocated to Veterans Memorial Park.
Madam Mayor, is your thing not working?
I'm sorry?
Is that?
Yeah, Commissioner King seconded that one. Commissioner King, you seconded, right?
No, I said, is it working? Because I actually had the button pushed.
Oh, hold on.
And then
Yes,
a
you
couple
are.
times I
Yes,
didn't. I
now it
wasn't sure
is,
if it's not
yes.
working.
When she made it, it was not. Okay, first of all, we have a motion for approval for MetLife claim funds to be allocated to Veterans Memorial Park, made by Commissioner McCool and seconded by Commissioner King. Commissioner Bradford, go ahead. Oh, you were going to make the motion?
Are you not lighting up? Are you not?
No, it wasn't up, because it's blank now again. No, no, yours isn't clicking in. No, because it's nothing now. And it wasn't before, until after she talked. Okay. Motion and a second. No other questions. May you please read the motion?
Motion reads, I move to approve MetLife claim funds in the amount of $1,679.35 be allocated to Veterans Memorial Park.
Okay, may we vote, please? Motion passes 7-0. Item F, request approval for an emergency change order for the contract with Granite Inliner for pipe repairs in the amount of $62,676. Mr. Danskin, relatively self-explanatory. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Danskin? Seeing none, unless somebody says something. Okay. Commissioner Bradford, see, you just clicked in now. Commissioner Bradford?
Yeah. I move to approve the emergency change order with Granite Inliner for pipe repairs in the amount of $62,676. The acting city manager has the authority to make correction of Scrivener errors and the like.
Properly moved by Commissioner Bradford, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there anyone from the public that signed up to speak on this item?
No, Mayor.
And we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. This is a change order. May we vote, please?
Motion reads, I move to approve the emergency change order for Granite Inliner for pipe repairs in the amount of $62,676. The acting city manager has the authority to make corrections of Scrivener's errors and the like.
And the motion passes 7-0. Public forum. Liz, would you read anyone that signed up to speak today in public forum?
Jeanette Acevedo, Alvin Mortimer, Jay Gunter, Mary Woodruff, and Mr. Kerwood. Janet Acevedo, please.
Ms. Acevedo? Yes, come on up forward. You're up. for public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission officers. How are you today? I'm Jenna Acevedo. I'm here on the property for 161 on a fine that they gave me for on the magistrate. I had a magistrate on Wednesday. I'm trying to see if I can find any help to lower the fines that I'm having at this moment.
Mr. Peters, does anyone know what this is about? We don't do back and forth on public comment, so do you have any information that you can give the clerk or explain a little bit more? You went in front of the special magistrate?
Yes, I did. Last week I did. I went to the special magistrate. I requested it to lower the fines that they gave me because I was having issues with the roof, but we were fighting on court for 2 years. But in the meantime, I was sending people to, repair in the meantime for the roof. So I had those fines. Unfortunately, I mean, they're way high. They did lower it, but still for me, it's still high because I'm not working. I'm a single mom. So I'm trying to see if somebody can help me out here to maybe lower it a little bit more at this point.
Okay, Mr. Paradise, do you want to respond after the end of public comment? And then if you have any information that you'd like to leave with the clerk, like what is the fine amount, what was it for, Mr. Paradise can maybe clear that up, because like I said, we don't normally go back and forth, but we'll have him clear that up at the end of public comment and see what he can address.
Okay,
then. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Alvin, one more, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. First of all, I'd like to thank our first responders and all of you, Mr. Peters. I need to apologize to Ms. McCool and also Heidi. In the past, I've been critical of you guys. I've always been respectful, but I've been ultra critical, and I apologize. I'd like to work together. Also, thank you to Sharice Boyd, the at-large candidate, for coming. She's aware of the issue. What I'm here to talk about is the issue that happened at 2629 Academy Avenue, involving an 18-year-old child, in my eyes, and the sheriff's office. I've been a constant visitor, explaining, trying to reason, and I just can't understand when social media took over for the courts. We used to have due process. It used to be the courts that convicted you. Now it's social media. A government official can say something about you on social media or the radio, and there's nothing you can do. I'll stop short of calling him a liar, but there are many, many, many facts being misrepresented, along with crime stats. And, when deputies fear, because I've been accused of deputies are afraid of me, I've threatened them. Why am I free? Why am I out? What does that say about their, policing? I haven't threatened anybody. If you can provide it, I will turn myself in. I'm not a threat. If I'm a threat to you, you fear the truth. I'll put my record and my arrests or whatever against anybody, because I guarantee you, when you hear my complaints, you'll understand. With that being said, this is the second complaint I will have ever filed against Volusia County in my life, and it also involves profanity. The first one I won. It's called Founded. Well, you can learn a lot in unfounded internal affairs reports, because there's sworn affidavits where officers tell their side of the story and they have to answer. So you can look in an internal affairs report that's been unfounded, and you can see what they've sworn and affirmed on, and it's very, very concerning. I won't name officers. Any one of you guys can call me and I'll name them all to you. There's veracity issues with the law enforcement. Facts don't coincide with reports. You know, this is law enforcement. When you got criminals or people that are getting arrested that are more believable than them, how long do you think it's going to take before somebody gets tired and I'm not threatening, I'm saying where somebody gets tired and their word is better than the police when it comes to court? I mean, it's got to stop. Something's going to happen sometime, and it looks bad on Deltona. The same thing with this new police thing at Saturday or Friday and Saturday night. You know, that's only going to embarrass our city. It's not, you know, and I'll tell you another thing too. When racially charged things happen, that live PD, they're going to show it because of ratings. It's going to make us look bad. I've said it before, we need our own police department, and I know we can't afford it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Jay Gunter, please.
Thank you all for all you do, and God bless you. I just want to introduce myself so that you know I'm a resident of Deltona. I have lived here most of my adult life, raising 3 kids that all 3 graduated from Deltona High. I'm very proud of that. The reason I'm talking to you, so maybe it'll put a little ease to you because you've got a lot going on here. So I'm a regional manager for DRC Emergency Services. I have been a garbage man basically 39 years, starting on the back of a garbage truck. I operate anything on the planet, unless it flies. This body's not made for flying. So, but I tell you that because I worked a lot of disasters all over the world, particularly in the country. Hurricane Ida, I was responsible for picking up about 15 million yards of debris last year. I also cleaned up the tornadoes in the land last year. I just have a lot of experience, and I live right here. When I'm home, I live here. So, and I'm the main contractor for Volusia County should a disaster occur, and should we need. I work with Ben and Arden and know all those people really well. I'm a yellow iron operator, getting it, handle it, whatever I need to do. So I also last year caught 2,800 tons of fish in Pinellas County. We don't tell people they were already dead from red tide. So there's a vast knowledge and a lot of experience here. So cleaned up the Piney Point levee breach last year as well, and wildfires in Colorado, tornadoes in Mayfield, Kentucky. So when I'm home, I'm home. This is home, and I have a lot of experience. So I'm just trying to give you at ease, like the mayor said at the beginning of the meeting. It's August 1st. You know, we're due for a hurricane, and you won't find anybody with more experience handling them and happen to be a resident of Deltona. So, thank you all.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Sir, can you provide me your business card?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mary Woodruff, please. Mary Woodruff? Mr. Carwood? Or Ms. Carwood? Ms. Carwood? I apologize. How do you pronounce your first name?
Ildiko.
Ildiko?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm not a speaker, but I have it written down. I'm here to address excessive noise levels and the noise ordinance in our city. I and my family have been subjected to ongoing loud music from neighbors for over 3 years. And when I say ongoing, I'm referring to weeknights and weekends. We've done everything we can to mitigate the noise. We have insulation with soundproofing tiles inserted in our window frames closest to the noise. Unfortunately, low-frequency sounds with large wavelengths like bass and drums can not only be heard but felt. Our windows, our pictures on the walls, everything vibrates. Patrick K. Dooley, Chief of Police, Jacksonville Beach, with 31 years in law enforcement, has written and published on the Florida State Law Enforcement website a research paper entitled Enforcing Noise Ordinances in Florida. Quoting from his article, When an agency begins receiving noise complaints, often from a single complainant, it is very easy to classify that individual as overly sensitive or even a chronic complainer. But the problem goes much deeper than that. There are physical and psychological effects of noise on individuals. Sleep deprivation can have devastating effects on people. Exposure to loud noise has resulted in uncontrollable stress, which can result in mood swings as well as hormonal and nervous system changes in otherwise healthy subjects, end quote. The Deltona noise ordinance states that from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., decibel levels cannot exceed 60 decibels, and from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., decibel levels cannot exceed 55 decibels. From Patrick K. Dooley's article, an example of 60 decibels is normal conversation, and another example is sound in a business office. At 55 decibel, an example is a household refrigerator. These are low thresholds. We have called law enforcement numerous times, but nothing improves. Sometimes the music gets louder after law enforcement leaves. The current approach of law enforcement is to attempt to persuade individuals who have already demonstrated no concern for their neighbors that they be more mindful of their neighbors. This is a futile effort at best. So we were forced to make a formal complaint with Deltona Code Enforcement. They have responded and assigned someone to our case. We appreciate their attention to this matter and hope this will be resolved. We've lived in this house for 30 years and no longer feel comfortable. I feel I am a reasonable person with normal sensitivities, and the enforcement of Deltona's noise ordinance is a quality of life issue. I hope the city officials understand the seriousness of this issue and will do what is necessary to address those concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Terry Ellis and then Rayner Coombs. Terry Ellis, please.
Be gentle, Terry. We've had a long night.
No, I'm going to make it easy. Few just quick things. Wanted to ask about, a while back, we talked about the hold times with Deltona Water, and we all know that they were high. And I believe at some point we talked about having the new meters would reduce the call-ins. And so I just wanted to find out if that's the case, if that's the expectation, and when do we expect for that to happen, because we're still having really high call time, hold times with Deltona Water. When we're talking about firing people and whatnot, it's like, well, all of that is going to get worse. And when you're trying to resolve a problem, you shouldn't have to be on the phone for 20 and 30 minutes just waiting for someone to answer the call. That's number one. Number two, increase, well, we talked about the late fees. I wanted to find out whether or not the deposit policy for Deltona Water, whether or not it's still in place, and how often that evaluation happens so that those deposits are returned to customers. That's number two. Number three, high usage tax. I just so happened to have a leaking toilet, didn't know it, till I got my bill, and my water usage was up from somewhere around $23, $24 to $91. So I never received a high usage tag. So, that's one of those items in the past that, sometimes it was done, sometimes it wasn't. It kind of went along, went along with staffing. So when we're talking about cutting people, those are the little things that, if I had been one of those people that maybe didn't get a paper bill, and I might not have even noticed it, and then in the past when we've had discussions, the backup to that is getting a high usage tag. So I never got that tag. I'd like to find out about that. And then lastly, I want to talk about performance evals. I've been you've heard from me numerous times for various reasons. And I'd like to find out, because I know the plan was introduced, that all the employees in the city would have a performance eval. And man, the importance of that was certainly driven home today. Because when you're talking about attrition and attrition analysis, obviously you want to take into account performance. If you're going to cut people, you certainly want to keep the cream of your crop. So I really hope that performance evals have been put in place for our city employees. Again, if we're going to cut people, we want to keep the best of what we have. Our level of service for Deltona, we've been running lean for years. I brought that up before as well. In the past, I won't name names, we all know who, but told us, oh, that's because we're so smart and we're so good at it. Why we're so lean. While we're talking about even getting leaner. So, performance eval for employees, even listening to the conversation about, legal. No, absolutely no reflection on, skip or anything, but, what's the process? Do we have an evaluation process for, our whatever city attorney? When do we decide, hey, you know what, maybe we should go out in the market and see what's out there? I mean, you do insurance, you get insurance quotes. You get comfortable with an insurance company, but every so often you need to check to see what's out there. What's that evaluation process? How do you make that determination on whether or not you need to at least take a look? Like I say, absolutely no reflect on these guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Rayner Coombs, please.
How you doing? My name is Ray Coombs. I'm a member of Veteran Enforcers Motorcycle Association. First off, I want to say I respect the enormous job that you as City Council have taken on. It's not easy trying to make everyone happy, but in my opinion, you come very close to satisfying the masses. Now, introduction to our organization. Again, we are Veteran Enforcers Motorcycle Association. Our mission is to recognize and pay homage to our military, law enforcement, and fire rescue professionals who have answered the call to duty. We accomplish this by supporting and organizing charitable events and functions that raises awareness to sacrifices our brothers and sisters have made to service our country and communities. We are also trying to bring a positive exposure to our organization here in Deltona. I have spoken with most of you on this panel and would like to continue our dialogue into the future. Just to let you know, we have signed up for the City Community Service event at the center this coming Saturday in the hopes that we can promote a cause that we have taken for the betterment of veterans and first responders' mental health. Along with companionship, the cause is Corsos for Heroes. This program breeds cane corso dogs, then highly trains them to be service animals. Once completed, they are donated to a vet or first responder as service animals. Responders free of charge. They get this dog free of charge. We hope this is something that everyone here can get behind in full support. We also have future events in mind that would bring more exposure to ourselves and the cause that we have taken up. For instance, we are holding a car and bike show in September 24th, benefiting veterans and families that have children with autism. Also, we understand that we are invited to the Christmas parade. Thank you for that. We also have an event scheduled for February 18th at Seminole Harley, where the Corsos for Heroes will be front and center. These are just a few we have in mind that are solid moving forward, but we are flexible to do any additional events. Last but not least, if we could get information on how to adopt a park, that would be fantastic. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, we'll gladly answer them.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming out.
Richard Ballack?
I find it odd that all night long you were trying to skimp and save money here, you're cutting people, you're doing this, but yet you'll pay a big legal fee and you won't look for another attorney. That might be cheaper, that might be better. That's insanity. You want to save money, you'll cut workers, you'll put families in the street, but you won't look for another attorney. Now, to me, there has to be more than meet the eye here. I mean, this guy's been around a long time, been a lot of money pilfered in Deltona, there's a lot of funds missing, there's been a lot of shady deals, and I'm sure, you know, I mean, when you're in the cookie jar, I mean, come on. You just want to put people out in the street, you want to fire workers with families and stuff, but you won't look for another attorney. Why? What's he got? What does he got? The only thing I ever seen was him settle every case he ever had. I didn't see nothing else. Settle this case, settle that case, pay this one, pay that one, and then I see you going with your head. You just know nothing about it. Don't you want to save money? You want to save money, don't you? That's what you talked about all night long. We had to hear you say this, say that. But when it comes to the big money, you do nothing. You don't want to search for another attorney. Why? There's got to be some kind of reason. Is that maybe the door might open and the skeletons might come out, Heidi? Could that be it? Was there chicanery in the past he knows about? There's got to be a reason. Any civil servant, any commissioner, any politician that wanted to help their community wouldn't be looking to lay off poor people and keep somebody that's taking a ton of money out of here and then come up with the defense is the best that I got. Now, the insurance lawyers call him and he talks about the case. Come on, them insurance lawyers are the best in the world. Come on, that's not even feasible to even think about that. Now, my contention is, and I'm going to keep saying it, is we're scared that the door might open and the skeletons might come out. I mean, you've been here 11 years, Heidi, 12 years. I'm sure there's things that you ran across you don't want to talk about. You might have been involved, maybe. Who knows? But you won't look for another attorney. What's so hard about looking for another attorney? You. Can't say him. But anyway, Mr. Sosa, that's a good move you made. But anyway, you just don't want to do it. Why? Now, I mean, it's insanity. You'll lay off poor people, working people, and you'll hear this story. So, oh, well, nobody knows how many hours he worked. You estimate, 450 hours. You don't know we worked 451 hours, Bradford. You don't know that. You just shut your mouth off. Bah, bah, bah. That's all you did. You did the same thing, Heidi. You don't know. When he was asked about setting a record of what he done, he didn't have it. Oh, I thought you got it. He gets over $1 million a year, and he thought that you got it. Wouldn't that be his job? Come on. When are you going to get somebody decent here?
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, that closes public comments.
Okay, public comment is closed for the evening. Next item, consent agenda. We don't have anything on there, so we have no comments on consent agenda. City Commission special reports and requests. And actually, before we do that, before we click in for that, Mr. Paradise, I apologize to go ahead and bring forth what you know about this case that the resident was questioning about the special magistrate.
Yes, there's property that the resident owns. It's I forgot the exact address. It's had a pretty extensive code compliance history, and the applicant or the resident went to the special magistrate and is seeking a reduction of fines that have accumulated on the property. What's going to happen is that request will be advanced to the City Commission for a formal determination. The date for that has not yet been determined, but it will, like I said, appear on an agenda for a formal decision of this commission.
And what type of property is this, Mr. Paradise?
This is a rental property. It's a quadplex.
Mr. Paradise, can we not have a conversation in the back, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Paradise?
Yeah, it is a rental property. It's a quadplex located in the southwestern section of the city.
So it's a rental quadplex?
Yes,
like a small, okay.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. So it will come to the commission one way or the other?
Yes, ma'am, it will. Date yet to be determined.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, and I will address some of the other comments in my comments. So City's Commission special reports and requests. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I should have passed this out before, but I totally forgot. I put it in my envelope, but I forwarded to Mr. Peters, and Mr. Peters said that I should bring it to the commission for consensus. So the Freemason Lodge here in the city of Deltona is having a car show October 8th, and they're asking the city to be a sponsored. We didn't get to speak on the sponsorship level, but I think that for starters, I think a $250 silver sponsorship is would be something to start with them. The proceeds of this goes to Make-A-Wish Foundation, local youth groups, children's homes, and other charities and community events by Landmarks. And I just want to let people know that 100% of what this organization raises, 100% goes to these charities. So I would just like get a consensus to start off with the $250 sponsorship. It features an event program website on the website. Thank you acknowledgement, and then, of course, there's the goal for $500, which gives you 2 tables to the event. So
you're asking for a $250 sponsorship for this event?
Yes,
for a
ma'am.
car show at the Landmark Lodge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, commissioners, as we've done in the past, we need a consensus on this. Commissioner McCool?
Absolutely.
Commissioner King?
I'd say yes, if they've met all the requirements for the sponsorship.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Please bring that forward, and as Commissioner King said, we have consensus to go ahead and move forward with that. Please make sure they abide by the sponsorship form.
Yes, and I'll give out the forms. I'll put them on everybody's table. I apologize I didn't pass them around.
Okay. Seeing as no others, we'll move on.
Wait, Madam Mayor?
Did you click in? Because I have nothing.
Yeah, I imaginary clicked. So sorry. Wait, Commissioner Bradford, did you
click in too? No.
Okay. I don't know, you can direct me to PDQ about a special request, but I'm like, it is August 1st, and I'm already over the issues with the signs. So if I'm making a special request, whatever, you tell me where to do it under, because it's coming up.
Could you clarify that a little more?
Sure.
Like, what are you looking for?
Listen, via social media, via my emails, okay, via rumor, conjecture, via the gravy train, whatever. There is so much crap flying around in our city about political signs. Are they in the right-of-way? Are they on private residence? Are they qualified as a city sign? Do they have the proper disclaimers on them? Do they belong here? Do they belong there? A good education would be for our Lisa Lewis. How about picking up the phone and calling her? But I'm telling you right now, it is my request that we have a special sign person during political season and onward. It's out there breeding out there, and it's gross for our city. They are all over the place. I see them nailed. I see them placed everywhere. And it's an issue, and I think everybody up here has seen that. equally. I don't care whose sign it is. If it doesn't comply, it's out. And we need someone to take a freaking tape measure and go see if it's on the right-of-way. The candidates need to understand what the right-of-way actually means. They need to sign a form saying they understand what that means, because it's out of control. And I would like it addressed. If we need a special person, you have a budget to go fix the situation as far as signs. They're out of control. They're like cockroaches in our town right now.
Madam Commissioner, if I may address this.
Sure.
We have been extremely aggressive, all of our code compliance officers, with regard to picking up political signs that are in the right-of-way. We have gotten complaints from certain candidates about our picking up signs in the right-of-way. The problem is, as you said, they procreate. I think they put seeds in the ground. When we take one out, one pops out. I'm joking, obviously, but we have places where we will pull up a sign in the morning, and I have certain people that call me and say, y'all didn't pick any signs up, it's still there. No, they put the one in since we got there. We have even gone so far as to having an undisclosed location where we're taking the sign, because the last thing we want is people dumpster diving, getting their signs back, and then putting them back out where they shouldn't be. There should be a penalty for inappropriate signs. So we're not telling people where we're putting them. But we're very aggressive. Mr. Paradise and the code enforcement people can say they know when I'm driving around town because they get phone calls. And so we have some people, businesses that are taking advantage of it. They see 2 or 3 political signs and they pop up 2 or 3 of their business signs. So yes, it's been a tough ordeal. We are being aggressive. As to the appropriateness of the signs, as to laws for candidates, put disclosures and stuff, we cannot enforce that. That is not our code. No. Supervisor of election is the person to call on that.
I understand that, and from what I understand and have been told, I have the call today that somebody has made a state ethics complaint about that just because of the proliferation of that very thing, that they're out of control, not following the letter of how it should be. So, sir, we have a sign problem in Deltona, and you're in control of staff. I know that you can't. I understand that, but I am just asking that it be watched. And candidates have the right, the legal right to advertise their candidacy, and we want to support good governance. And the way that we do that is we follow rules. And if, first of all, if you think that you're circumnavigating rules during the political process, you're certainly going to circumnavigate them once you're in office. That's my view on that. So I'm just asking that we take a closer look at that, and that candidates are educated on where they can put their signs, and there needs to be some chargeback if they're not in compliance, because they've got whoever it is running out putting signs up, and they need to be held responsible for those people. Candidate can say, oh, I didn't know my sign was out there. Well, you're dadgum sure in charge of the person doing that. And it's trashy and it's tacky for our city. So I'm done off my soapbox. Not all are guilty of it. Those that are know who they are. And it just makes our city look tacky.
Well, I can share with you, like I did earlier, this is me personally, because it's something that really bothers me. I often make my political decisions based on how people handle their signs. If they can't follow the law with how they place their signs, it tells me a lot about how they may govern. So, that's something that, I look at personally. But yes, we're aggressively going after the signs.
I'm done. I'm off of the political soapbox, but thank you for addressing that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We'll move on to city attorney comments.
Tonight,
City Manager, Acting City Manager Peters, any comments?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to remind you all that we have a special meeting next Monday to consider the charter amendments. And I noticed earlier that we have 5 Mondays this month, so we have an opportunity to have an extra workshop at the end of the month for budget or whatever.
Think of your staff. Think of your staff.
Boy, I'd say that went over well.
King?
Commissioner comments?
Would you like to start, sir? You're good? Ooh, Commissioner McCool?
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. I've already off the soapbox about the signs. Another thing, too, is if you're going to throw your money away, it's going to tell me a lot about how you're going to handle my finances as a constituent. So there's that, too. I would like to also remind everybody about the fabulous Community Services Day coming up Saturday, August 6th. Man, we have a lot of people signed up for this. There are a lot of great gifts and prizes that are going to be handed out, gift cards, electric scooters, iPads that these sponsors are bringing in. We're really highlighting the community services that we all need and that we can offer through these nonprofits to our residents. And it's going to be a good, fantastic communal day. So I'm reminding you about that. Come on out and be supportive of our providers and our residents. So come out. Also, I'd like to bring up, as part of my ongoing education for those interested in women's issues, I want to share one with you that is very serious. It's no laughing matter. And so if you want to get involved in women's issues and you're all about it, let me give you something to get involved with. A Michigan woman was denied a protection order against her husband 2 weeks before she and her family were found dead Sunday in an apparent murder-suicide. Court documents show. Tierney Savage filed for the order on June 24th in Michigan's 34th Circuit Court, claiming her husband, Bo Eugene Savage, had recently bought a gun, repeatedly threatened suicide, and refused to leave the family's home. She did not want her safety or son's safety in jeopardy, she wrote, according to the order. The order was denied 3 days later by a judge who found insufficient evidence of immediate or irreparable injury, according to documents obtained. The judge, Troy Daniel, wrote that Savage could request the order in a divorce court. I want to tell you this. Today, I experienced right here in Volusia County, there were 2 women from Deltona denied protective orders from violent husbands. They wrote about the violence that had occurred. One just came up, popped her head up, and after being abused for last 12 years, had the courage enough to ask for a protective order and was denied by our very own judge here in Volusia County. While I was there for that protective order getting denied, there was another lady there, and I heard her story and watched her walk out getting a protective order denied also. And she was from Deltona as well, because I went out and talked to her about it. Second asked for protective order was denied also. So we have 2 women here in Deltona that are unprotected now because a judge, because of his policy, not wanting to protect these women. And I read the complaints. One of the women just had her ex slam her child's head into a fence. A police report was made, and yet the protective order was denied. So if you want to do something for women's issues and you want to talk about women's issues, let's start local here, because these women are walking around unprotected in Deltona, Florida. I want you to sit on that and understand that. So while you're busy doing other things in women's issues, get busy with this. If you'd like to know the name of the judge that failed to protect these women, you can email me or call me. Both of my number and my email are available on the website. To understand, these women are walking around unprotected. So if you want to get involved that way. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to give just a quick information update. If anybody wants to be a part of it, Backpack Buddy is having their Night to End Hunger in Volusia this Saturday, August 6th from 6 to 10. It's over at the DeLand Motorsports. There's still opportunity for sponsorship and single tickets, and that number is 386-218-5776. Again, this is being sponsored by Backpack Buddies. It's called Night to End Hunger Volusia, and Backpack Buddies works throughout Southwest Volusia. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bradford?
The only thing I have is, it is a busy weekend, so Saturday we do have our community services. Sunday, we also have the back-to-school fair. We're getting all our kids ready for school. This is a perfect time. This is by our Deltona Fire Rescue. We're going to have many different local groups and organizations there, 8 to 11 at the center. Definitely recommend you guys to come out. It's an amazing event. I mean, just in the few years that I've sat up here, I've watched the Sea Grant go from this hall to filling the center. There is so many different groups and organizations there. I mean, your kid's going to walk away with a backpack filled with supplies. So, and it's fun. It's fun and games as well. So I definitely recommend you come. The center, Sunday, 8 to 11. Don't forget our community services on Saturday.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Sosa?
Yeah, Mr. Peters, going to Ms. Ellis' request, when will the new meters start getting installed?
Can you ask that again, sir?
When will the new water meters be getting installed? When are we going to start the implementation?
Okay, the delivery is supposed to start in November, with the preponderance of them coming in January. We are putting out the RFQ for just the install. We originally were going to do install and cost saving, but because we're using the federal dollars, it's more efficient for reimbursement purposes from the Fed. Do it as separate. That will be going out, and we will be in place to start installing the meters when they start coming in November.
Okay. And to the second point, are we still going out and doing high usage tags on doors if somebody has a high usage for the month?
Let me make sure I understand. You're asking if we put tags on the door when there's high usage?
Yes, sir.
Only when we read them and see something that is outside the norm, but I'm not sure that we're actually putting tags on the door. That's part of the reason these new meters are critical, is because if people sign up for email service as part of the program, they will receive an email when the meter is showing continuous use, which would indicate a leak. So that's one of the advantages of the new meters. People are aware that there's a leak before they get an extremely high water bill.
Okay. But at one point, did they not used to put tags on for high usage? I thought they used to do that in the past.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, there was. There was.
Yeah.
20, what was it, 20% threshold? 20, it was something ridiculous, and then they bumped it down to 20% threshold.
If it's on the data logger and it's over a certain threshold, yes, you're right.
Going to 88 complaints. Who in the city is responsible for handling 88 complaints?
As I have told you before, if it is what I call walking ADA, which is accessibility physically, that is handled by the building official. That was part of the 2012 transition plan. That is what we refer to as Title III. Title II has to do with employment ADA, and that is the HR director. And then subsequently, we have had the ADA compliance with regard to meeting accessibility. If you read the bottom of the agendas that we put out, it says on there 48 hours in advance to notify the city clerk that you need accommodation and what type it is. We will make every effort to make that happen. And then the third level is what I just call general ADA inquiries in terms of other accommodation, and they come to me because the commission authorized me back in February of 21 to engage an ADA attorney, which is Jill Schwartz and Associates. So when those types of things come up, I will reach out to Ms. Schwartz's firm to get clarification on what is required and what we should be acting for.
Okay, so if I had an ADA issue, I should know to call you. You should be my original point of contact, and you will refer me to whoever I need to go.
That's not what I said, sir. It depends on what...
Okay, well, take it from me, if I'm just a resident, I don't know who the ADA coordinator is, who do I contact? In general, that needs to direct me to whomever I need to go to.
You can contact the city manager's office, and we will direct you to the right people.
You're good, sir? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. So just want to share some information, little events going on. On the August 4th, if you guys want to go out and support your candidates, there's a hobnob going on at the center of the city of Deltona at 4:30. On 8/13, the same group, the Freemasons here in Deltona, they're on Apache, 720 North Apache. They're doing a free breakfast, teachers appreciation. So if anybody wants to go, it's right there across the street from on Normandy, across the street from Walgreens. I also want to let everybody know that if you do not want to cook on Wednesdays, go to the Sons and Daughters of Italy. It's pasta night, $10 for the full night for dinner, and there's music to dance to if you want to. So it's right there on 1270 Doyle Road. Been a member for 20 years, and you have a lot of fun. And that's all. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Thank you, ma'am. So just a couple of things. First of all, the noise ordinance. The lady that spoke, last ComStat meeting, we discussed with Sheriff Chitwood what they were doing with DeBerry's noise ordinance, and we were also talking about the fact that we now have a meter that code enforcement has, and so we're working with the Sheriff's Department in order to have them, when they go out to a noise complaint, actually have the decibel reader and actually delve deeper into what was done in the past, because in the past it was a big runaround. Call code enforcement, call the Sheriff's Department. This one dealt with it, this one didn't, and it's been a problem throughout the city periodically at different times. So we have had those discussions, and the sheriff brought it up at the ComStat meeting. Several commissioners were there at that time and also heard that. So Mr. Peters, you are, I'm going to say, having discussions with the code enforcement and sheriff's department to address some of the noise issues in the city.
Yes, ma'am, and I would also, when the citizen was talking, she referred to the very low frequency that vibrates. You don't necessarily hear it. The noise meter that I authorized, in fact, gave me the information, to purchase in code compliance, you're able to change the frequency to where you can actually get a reading on the non-hearing low frequency noise, so that they're able to pick that up, because the typical noise meter is in the hearing range, and so that very low frequency will not be picked up. So we have that ability.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So in relation to that, if the house is behind the individual's home, as I'm pretty sure that one is, and the sheriff does a decimal reading from the front of that person's home, it's obviously going to be totally different than from their backyard. And I guess one of the problems that is happening is that if they're doing it from the front and they invite them to the back and they don't want to go to the backyard, they're saying that the decimal is okay, where when you walk out the backyard, that's when I was like, kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. I don't know what we can do to help with that.
My understanding, the noise ordinance is the noise at the property line. Now, if you were living behind the vice mayor and you were having a party and the vice mayor was complaining, then we would go to, my recommendation would be, we would go to the vice mayor's property, go to her rear property line, because that's where the worst noise is going to be, and get a reading there, because that is by ordinance, the sound has to be below a certain threshold at the property line.
And I
So
think
we
that's
would
the-
literally go to her rear yard and get the reading at that location.
And I believe that's the problem she's having, is when they do the decimal meter, they're doing it from the road in front of her house. So
Then-
I don't know if we can correct that, because she has been experiencing this for a while now.
Yep.
I think I've talked to her about it as well.
Yes, ma'am. I will definitely include that in our conversation with code compliance and the sheriff department. I have a lot of experience for a profoundly deaf person. I have a lot of experience with the noise stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Commissioner Sosa's question about high usage door tags, I've reached out to a couple staff. Unfortunately, 10 o'clock may be past some of their bedtime. But we do believe, yes, the high usage door tags are still being done. I don't have specifics on the parameters that would trigger the door tag, but I'll look into it and I'll get back with the city manager tomorrow.
Thank you, sir. So the next comment I have is regarding the city attorney contract. The contract for Fowler, Feeney, and O'Quinn was approved on November 6, 2017 by a unanimous vote of the commission. The commission at that time went out for a search after the Vose law firm resigned. And remember that we have a residency requirement in this city for a city attorney, for an in-house city attorney. So any city attorney that's going to work in the city of Deltona as an individual in-house city attorney needs to live in the city. And if you look back on the applicants, none of them that applied at that time were qualified for what the city of Deltona was looking for at that time, which was 10 years of municipal government experience. No individual city attorney that met or was willing to meet the residency requirement qualified. So the other story of that was we had law firms that applied. And when we went through it, we chose the firm that could best service the needs of the city of Deltona. The Fowler Law Firm had been in a city attorney when, I believe, around the time we incorporated, and it filled in several different times throughout. They had a long history with the city. They had experience with a new city and what the city government was going through at that time, and through all multiple ups and downs. So that is a history behind choosing the law firm at that time in 2017. There's no reason anyone can't go out to bid for a firm, but again, look at what you're going to get in terms of an in-house city attorney with a residency requirement that we have in the city. And the last comment I have on that is if there are any allegations of wrongdoing and nefarious activity, please bring that forward, file with the Ethics Commission. Let us know all those crooked and corrupt things we're doing and the skeletons that we have in our closet. And please feel free to go ahead and file that against any of us that you feel are corrupt and crooked and are getting a ton of money for the job that we do up here for the $14,000 I get and the $11,000 the commission gets with zero benefits, may I add. A year. Oh, yes, a year. Because I did look up, when I was looking up something, it came up mayor's salary, and for Deltona it came up like $85,000. I'm like, wow, what am I missing here? So no. Anyway, the last comment I'd like to make is on our beloved Honorable Commissioner McCool's commentary on signs. As many of you know, we received an email today about some signs going missing from someone's front lawn and that they were in the right of way and so on and so forth. I understand all that. The bottom line is it's not only political signs. The signs in this city have been out of control for a long period of time. I was on this commission when we did our last sign ordinance. All those banner signs, those little flag things, never were approved. Never were approved. They should all be removed, or we should change the sign ordinance. I like those personally. But everything that this commission does is done. Every ordinance that's passed, every resolution is done by consensus. It's not a strong mayor form of government or strong commissioner form of government. It's a 4-3 or a 5-2 or 6-1 or a 7-0. If it's less than that, it fails, as you saw tonight. So in terms of signs, here's my issue. Both as a candidate and as a resident and as an elected official. When a resident puts a sign in their property, whether they pick one up at a hobnob, or they're approached by a candidate, or they had it from the last election, and they put it in their yard, in their personal property, whether they rent it or they own it, how many of them know where the right-of-way is? Everybody thinks their property goes to the road. It does not. But most residents don't know that, especially if you're a transplant that moved somewhere up north, that maybe your property did go to the road. So when people put their signs in the right-of-way, sometimes it's the candidate plopping it in, and a lot of times the homeowner doesn't know, or the resident there doesn't know where it's going. So when you talk about removing signs in the right-of-way from homeowners, unless it's a traffic hazard and it's too close to the road, but we need to be removing all the signs then, including those that are advertising for roofing and for solar and for yard sales and for mattresses. My personal favorite this weekend, mattresses everywhere. Everywhere, not only here. I had to go to Seminole County, mattresses all over there too, and so on and so forth. So if we're going to go ahead and remove signs, the first place you should be concentrating is in the city's public rights of way on major arterial roads that are a traffic hazard. When they block the corners and they block traffic and they're distracting. And it's not only political signs. It's not only political signs. Very few other cities look like we do.
Praise Jesus.
They don't look as messed up as we do, with sign graveyards on every major arterial intersection. That show that Mr. Mortimer was talking about, Live PD, the new one, On Patrol Live, 2 weeks ago there was an accident on Howland and Catalina. It was live. I like that show, just personal. What did we see? All the candidate signs behind the accident. Your code enforcement has 2 shifts, 2 supervisors, 2 separate shifts. Someone in District 6 seems to be really good about picking up signs. Right, Commissioner Sosa? I would say so too, for a fact. In District 3, not so much. So there's got to be some coordination, to Commissioner McCool's point. Let's not only look at political signs. They're a problem right now because it's campaign season. But the other stuff, our ordinance that we passed said no handwritten signs. You had 30 days from the point of when that thing was passed to remove them. Yeah, where's Albert? Anyway, Mr. Peters, it's not only political signs. And it's not only in one district. It can't be. If it's going to be, it needs to be fair across the board. Be fair across the board. And remember, when you pick up from someone's personal home, sometimes they don't know where that right-of-way is. Right, Commissioner Sosa? I know where mine is too, but I'm just saying in general. I understand it, but we got to be fair in every single district in this city when we're doing that, and in our commercial district. End of rant.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
My signs are handwritten, and they say, "We buy junk cars," but they're exempt from removal because I place them on signposts that are already existing in the city, okay?
So I thought you were going to tell me you drew an arrow on all of them and made them, Commissioner, did you draw an arrow on them? Because then they're directional, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole we don't want to go down tonight.
Madam Mayor, I am hereby officially asking Mr. Paradise to have code compliance cite Mr. King for violations. Self-incrimination.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for staying and watching. Who won?